This is 365 Sports.
Daniels keeps it, and he scores.
365 Sports is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Underneath, Smith gets to the corner. Money on the rise. Touchdown, Jeremiah Smith.
365 Sports is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
Johnson buys some time. There's the tight end again, rumbling towards the end zone, and the touchdown for Anzio.
Remember when you had a guy, someone who could fix anything? They're still out there at Batteries Plus. With their quick solutions and expert advice on batteries, key fobs, and phone repair, Batteries Plus will have you in and out and on your way in no time. Batteries Plus, the experts in charge.
Klubnik's going to take off. Klubnik with a touchdown.
Now here's Paul Catalina and Craig Smoak.
Welcome in, 365 Sports. We are less than 24 hours from the kickoff of the college football season, and we could not be happier here to actually get to talk about games. And while there's a lot of different things about the SEC and 9-game schedule, I decided to put those in a later segment, Craig, so that we could dive right in and start talking about Farmagedon tomorrow. Kansas and Fresno State is tomorrow. Sam Houston and Western Kentucky. There are games, Stanford and Hawaii tomorrow, that we actually can talk about. Now, look, I think I feel more confident in talking about the Big 12 games than the others, but still, we can jump right in and talk about those early on in the show today, and we can wait on all the other stuff till later. We've got Zack Barnett from Football Scoop at 3:30. We have Pat Smith from 3-Man Front at 4 o'clock to talk about that SEC 9-game schedule. 4:30, Dave Wilson wrote a fantastic column on ESPN.com today about his father and his car dealership, and then the tentacles of cars and recruits and NIL. It was really fantastic. And then Josh Neighbors' college countdown. So Craig, chat, everybody. Hello, Craig. How are you?
I'm good. Man, it's great to be a day away from actual football and to be able to, starting on Monday, talk about results and not a bunch of hypotheticals, although that's fun as well. And the speculation is part of the entertainment. This this actual on-field stuff, this is why I'm a college football fan, and I say that pretty often because we get so lost in the off-the-field stuff. But man, I was hoping we were going to talk expanded playoff today. I was right out of the gates. I hope we were going to talk about 32-team playoffs, and no, I'm kidding. I'm glad that there's still some of that to chew on for those that enjoy that, and I do to some extent. But I'm much more excited about seeing K-State and Iowa State tomorrow, seeing Kansas at their brand new home, brand new made over home, and then some of the rest of the games that are scattered around as well. It's finally here, so to speak. The long wait is over.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have our first Big 12 availability reports, and Iowa State and Kansas State have released that. I grabbed this tweet foolishly, forgetting that there was a second team in the game, I guess. But Iowa State's listing 16 players. Neither team is listing anybody who you would consider a recognizable name or star for their team right now. But they both have people on the list that will not play. But both quarterbacks are playing. The wide receivers are playing. No major injuries along the defensive line. They're about as healthy as you can be for the first game of the season, both of them.
Yeah, well, that's what you would hope for. I mean, we've seen a little rash of injuries here over the last few days, and that just sucks because injuries are awful at any time. But obviously, when you get this close to the season, you just hate to see a Quentin Joyner go down the week before this big season of expectations, or a Dawson Pendergrass and the various other guys around the country. So that's been really unfortunate. It's part of the deal. But, it looks like both teams are relatively healthy, and the players that are going to be the recognizable names are going to all be available, especially those two quarterbacks. So that's great. It's exactly what you want. You wish every game could be 100% healthy, so there's no our linebacker didn't play, and that would have been different. That's going to happen anyways. But last year there was a lot of Iowa State games, damn near all of them, where you could say, well, we didn't have our linebackers, plural. And I think that affected them, not to the point where it affected them too much. So that kind of stuff is going to happen eventually. But, yeah, you want both teams to be as healthy as they can be at the beginning, and both appear to be just that. So that's all good, and it's cool. I don't really know from a non-gambler's point of view, or a non-fantasy player, which I'm assuming if you play fantasy, it's either a buddy thing, but there's probably some money on the line with that, or some stupid bet or something along those lines. I don't know how much just a casual fan will get out of the injury reports, but certainly the media and gamblers and people who are maybe a little bit more locked in will see the value and get the juice out of those injury reports. So I like that they're doing it. It's something that I think does give you some clarity heading into every game to kind of know what's what. And so I like that.
Yeah. Trevor Burr is the biggest name for Iowa State. He started 6 games last year in the Final Four at left guard. Since we don't know the depth charts of any of these teams really yet, we don't know if he's a starter, but he would be the one who he's potentially a starter. But since we have this whole thing about depth charts before the first game, we don't know.
Yeah, but he was on the initial depth chart as a starter. So I just will assume that he was going to be the starter since he was on the initial one. So, yeah, that is a loss for Iowa State. And I think Daniel Jackson's another guy who has had a lot of injury history. He was listed as questionable as well. Didn't have monster numbers 2 years ago, but I guess a guy of note out there as well for Iowa State that's listed as the questionable. So yeah, I think the surprising thing to me was just see the list of names. Like, I know not all of them are out. Obviously, there's the outs and the questionables, but that list was a bit longer than I anticipated being, because it's the first damn game. Like, how do you already have 16 guys on this list? And there was another name that I found very interesting. And look, I'm not going to gaslight the audience. I try not to ever do that. So I'm not going to act like I know every single P and Q as far as both of these rosters go. So if there's a guy who's a little bit more of a factor than maybe we're giving credit for, as a K-State or Iowa State fan, feel free. I don't mind being wrong. I don't mind learning something. So if there's guys we're not accounting for that you think are going to be a big deal, feel free to say something in the chat and educate us and everybody else, because that's what we're here to do, not to play all-encompassing experts at all times. But you do see Lincoln Cure on that Kansas State list, which obviously is the big 5-star tight end that they grabbed, and somebody that we talked about with K-State media throughout the offseason, and we're kind of not told directly, but we kind of had our expectations downplayed because everybody does this with five-star guy. Oh, my God. Well, we're told by no less than a couple of K-State guys of like the tight end room's like the deepest room in the entire like so Lincoln Cure is going to probably play, but he's not like the starter right away or not going to be a big X factor, but he's not going to be in this game tomorrow. That's just one of the names that jumped out to me when I initially looked at it.
Ohio State transfer George Fitzpatrick, who suffered injury early in camp for them also, not and they expect him to start when he comes back, but he's out. So he's on the out list. Probable, though, is Arizona transfer Gunnar Maldonado at safety. So
yeah, he had gotten banged up. I knew that, and I thought that there was a chance that maybe he could miss this. So that's great news that he's probable. And for those who haven't seen the list, there's out, which is Lincoln Cure and like 12 other names, and then there's for K-State, for example, and then there's doubtful, which Asa Newsome, I think that's a recognizable name for most people. So he's doubtful along with Malcolm Alcorn Crowder, and then Gunnar Maldonado's probable. So he's got the best chance to play of anybody. So that is a notable name on the probable / doubtful. But yeah, on the out list, Lincoln Cure is definitely one that jumped to mind. Ryan Davis, another guy who was in that starting mix for K-State as well at defensive end, I believe, is another one that is maybe notable, more notable than some of the others. So, yeah, it's cool to see this. And, like, I think once we get into a full swing of games and we kind of familiarize ourselves more with just new faces and who's impactful versus just a name that we recognize and who's a bigger loss than others, I think that'll be really fun throughout the season to kind of get these updates every week and go, oh, damn, like Arizona's saying that Noah Fafita's out, and like they're gonna have to say something. So that's going to be an interesting new tool that's going to be around every week for everybody to chat about. So yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, absolutely. So I love that NFL got rid of questionable. So it's the same where it's probable, doubtful, out, whatever direction you wanted to do it. But the NFL used to have a designation called questionable, which was so vague and nebulous. Like, well, it's questionable. And then finally somebody said, well, what's the difference between questionable and doubtful? Couldn't you put everybody in the doubtful list on the questionable list? And then Bill Belichick really wrecked it for everybody because he wouldn't list anybody as out or probable or doubtful. He would list them all as questionable. Mm-hmm. And he would put everybody who got a little bit of treatment. Like Tom Brady was questionable like 30 games in a row and never missed one because he had a knee injury that one year and he would get treatment on his knee. So it'd be like Tom Brady, questionable knee. And then the reporters would be like, well, he's playing, but why is he on the injury report? And Belichick's like, well, could be questionable. Maybe he doesn't play.
Yeah, there's gonna be some of that. Yeah. I don't know how much they'll police this, but it's in coaches' DNAs to bull S and to try and create what advantages they can, as we've long documented with basically every facet of this game imaginable, from the obvious cheating things you can do to the less obvious. If there's a way to cheat people out there in college football, and cheat maybe not always the appropriate word, but to gain an advantage, there's always going to be people trying to do that. So yeah, I'm sure there's been plenty of discussions in coaches' offices of how this could somehow be weaponized, right? Or how you can kind of play games with it, because Bill Belichick certainly did. But yeah, this is something kind of cool to be able to look at ahead of the game. I should say Asa Newsome's another guy that's listed as doubtful for K-State, and he had the ACL injury a year ago. But he's a name, too, that I think would pop out to a lot of people looking at that list. So he's doubtful for the Wildcats D. But that is good news on Maldonado, that he's now probable, because when I saw the last update on him, I just figured that he might not be available. So that's good, because that was a really good pickup for them through the transfer portal. So, yeah, there's some names of note, but I don't think anything that derails this from being a game where it's pretty much your best versus your best. I mean, Again, Lincoln Cure, that's more of a name than it is anything proven, and K-State's going to be just fine at tight end. Some of these others, do they have more of an impact? Like Daniel Jackson, like you didn't play at all last year. You've been banged up for well over a season. So I don't know that any of these have a great effect. And even when looking at what was the Trevor Burr, I mean, he was in a competition with other guys for the starting spot. So I think what I'm saying is I think everybody's going to be pretty good to go for the most part, as far as you could, as best as you could hope for outside of like 95% to 100% health. Seems like they're at like 90, which is probably maybe the average around. I guess we'll see next week when everybody starts releasing injury reports. We'll see what the average number of names on there is. But when I saw like 15 apiece, I was like, wow, is that normal? But I guess it probably is. We'll see when these continue to become more of a common thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So we meant to get to this one yesterday, but we did put out a graphic about it. And Chris Kleiman on why K-State was asked to play in Dublin. And he said, I think all the pubs are going to see why. And based on those two fan bases, Guinness is going to see a nice little uptick this year.
Yeah, I don't think that Iowa State or Kansas State are going to have a problem hanging in Ireland, or have had a problem the last few days. I mean, Chris Williams, that Cyclone fanatic, I seem to remember him being more of a, what was Iowa State's brand? Was it Busch Light, I believe?
Oh, yeah.
So I don't think they have any Busch Light out in Ireland. Maybe they do. I don't know how all of that works, but yeah, I think they're enjoying the Guinnesses, and
you could not get more polar opposite of a drink.
Dark, thick beer versus a light yellow beer versus damn near clear beer
versus beer by the definition of it, but maybe not like what other people.
See, I don't know. Like that's. I'm trying to think of. Some people just drink anything; it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Some people don't want, like, I did not like the thick beers when I was a drinker. So like the Budweiser for me was too much, because after like 1.5 of them, I was like, I'd feel full. I want to just drink more, right? So give me like the thin, light beer so I can like crush those. Mm-hmm. But then there's the whole different taste of like, well, that doesn't have taste, or that tastes like, piss beer or whatever. Like, give me the full bodied and it's like, I'm just trying to get drunk, man. Like, that's all I was trying to do.
There's a nice middle ground between college beers, keg party beers.
Of course.
And
cheap beer.
Yeah. Cheap beer, like that beer, and then like fancy beer, which is the beer you enjoy when you're in your late 30s and 40s. You're like, oh, this one has different hops in it and stuff like that. Anytime before that, you're just being a kind of a dork. So just look, have a nice Miller Lite. That's fine.
Well, I mean, people do get their rocks off on beer tasting and things.
I love doing that stuff, but I also understand that there's a time and place for every beer. Like some people get like way into it, and I'm more or less imagining Guinness is like a tailgating beer. Yeah,
it just doesn't strike me as one where you're loading up before you walk into the stadium. It just feels like you'd be very sloshy and kind of feel sick if you were trying to. Yeah. So it's just a different vibe as far as tailgate drinking goes. But I'm sure Iowa State and Kansas State fans have found various pathways to get to their proper head frame, proper buzz, whatever they need to get into this one. And they certainly seem to be having a lot of fun this week. So I think we'll have a rowdy crowd come tomorrow in Ireland.
Yeah, I feel like I should have had one like today to celebrate Farmagedon.
Could have.
I feel like I could have done that on the show. Maybe Guinness would have spent some money. It's a missed opportunity. I mean, I could DoorDash from Guinness, but then you don't get that cool Guinness pint that they have. I'm just drinking out of the can, which I'm sure they like, but Guinness, you need to let it breathe. So it's definitely an acquired taste. I've acquired it, but it wasn't for lack of effort.
Yeah.
I mean, it took a lot, because sometimes I'd be like, I don't, and it, like, once you have one, that's kind of like you said, Craig, it's kind of it.
Yeah. Well, and I also am probably just broadly labeling Ireland as only drinking thick beer. I'm sure they have their version of like
they have a lot of different things. Yeah,
that's what people are crushing on the way to the stadium.
Yeah. I mean, they have lagers and ales as well. You know, it's not just Guinness.
They're the
stuff.
Irish. They've got
Jamesons and other whiskeys.
They're taken care of. They've got what they need to have. Yeah.
Conor McGregor has his Irish whiskey, which is called Felony or whatever. I don't know. Which, impending lockup.
Yeah, just a messy ass dude, man. He's just a messy ass dude. And, I saw an interview with Daniel Cormier yesterday, just in scrolling on my phone. And who was he? Oh, he's sitting down with Shannon Sharpe, who is the first time I've heard anything about Shannon Sharpe.
Dude. Yeah. Huh? Also a messy ass dude.
Yeah, he's also a messy ass dude. Daniel Cormier's not.
Yeah.
But that was the first time I'd seen anything Shannon Sharpe since like 3 weeks ago when all that came out. And it did feel like, and I'm sure for his hardcore religious viewers, like that didn't do anything to damage him for them. But it was an ad that was like a 10-minute ad. So I was like, how did I end up watching this? Oh, it was an ad, but they tricked me. They worked on me because I didn't like follow the show or anything. But it got me, and I'm sitting there listening to Daniel Cormier, and there was a part about I just want to say Shannon just felt like maybe his following didn't take much of a hit, but it just felt from like watching is like he's kind of taking a little bit of a hit. Does that make sense? Like I just watched, I was like, he's kind of taking a little bit of a hit. I'm sure he'll be fine though. But they were talking about Conor McGregor and just how much money he made, and just like how it's not surprising that he's found trouble and been all over the place and just kind of been messy and found criminal trouble and all these different things because he made just so much money so quickly once his star took off. And it was an interesting little combo between those two guys. But
Craig,
the Irish have more than just Conor McGregor is the point.
You once did a very fantastic, actually 2 really good interviews with him, but you did back. You did 2 really good interviews with him back in the day. And that was, but I remember like listening to you talk to him and like watching him, and I was like, this guy either looks like he's trouble, like, and it just fits the vibe, or he's actually trouble. Like he had that whole thing about him.
I mean, he's a fighter, but this was also
when Chuck Liddell was really nice. Like he's,
he was very nice, but you look at him from across the room and you wouldn't necessarily know that. But Conor doesn't have that kind of look to him, but he was very well dressed even then. But this is when he was on his ascent. This wasn't when he'd already won the title and became like the big face of UFC. He was on his way to becoming that. It was obvious that he was going to probably become some form of that between he and Ronda Rousey and John Jones. And, when they actually had all these stars that people knew, unlike now when they've got great fighters, but like, it's kind of like multiple choice quiz. Like, do you know these guys for the casual fan? Whereas you could go like, that's Ronda Rousey and like, that's Conor McGregor. You kind of knew that was during that time period when they were really, really hot, and they were about to be even hotter because he was about to, in about a year, become like the guy, and he's going to knock you out Aldo and do all that. So that was a cool time to talk to him. I don't know what it was like after that, but I'll never say a bad word about, like, he was very nice. Interview screwed up recording the first time, and he actually let me walk and talk with him and get a second interview. So I'll forever be grateful for that. But I wish I could be more of a fan. But he's making it hard sometimes to be a fan of his,
Yeah, and he did that because you did such a good job the first time.
Yeah.
Moving on, Brett McMurphy tweeted this out yesterday. This is miles traveled, round trips for schools this season of the most. Hawaii, who probably always leads this list. I would be surprised if there's a year they don't. This is their Sears Cup. Like they have that. Stanford has a trip to Hawaii and all these trips to the East Coast. So they're on this list. If you look at the top schools, until you get to Kansas State, who is going to Ireland, and then Iowa State, who is also going to Ireland, and West Virginia, UCF at the bottom, obviously the furthest East Coast teams in the Big 12. Like, you kind of take Kansas State and Iowa State out of this. It's all West Coast, and then the 2 teams on the East Coast for the Big 12. I don't mean to like pour one out for them, but all their coaches will hate this because they are traveling so much more than everyone else. And this is what you get when just Stanford and Cal on this list. And Stanford throws a Hawaii trip in there too to really lengthen it. This is what you get when you have these conferences that span the whole, border to border of the country.
Yeah, it is. I think you should almost have I guess you can't separate them because you are traveling to Ireland, you are traveling to Hawaii, but those are definitely the outliers. So the asterisk is warranted there. But like if you were to take away those trips, that I know you can't do that, but it's just those are uniquely unique versus just the regular ones that are traveling cross country most of the time. So as far as those teams go, I mean, there was a account that pretty quickly responded, I think, to this, and it had lumping this group is from Build the Dam. Lumping this group together to form a conference would make a lot of sense, and it lists Stanford, Oregon, Washington State, Cal, UCLA, USC, Washington, and he throws Utah State in there, which I don't know about that. They were never in the old Pac-12, and those schools that are mentioned alongside them would never accept them in the Pac-12 if they were still a part of it. So I don't think that they all belong together. But the rest of that group, they would all make a great conference, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
But there they all are taking up half this list. So yeah, conference realignment effectively created a lot more travel, and we knew that was going to be the case. And look, there's the Big 12, which Iowa State and K-State are outliers, but it just goes to show you that when it comes to this realignment, like, look, folks, we got to be honest, like the Big 12 might not even be a thing in 10 years. Yeah. The ACC might not be a thing in 10 years. Like the only thing I think we can safely say is the SEC and the Big 10 are going to be around in some form or fashion. What will they look like and who will that include is up to anyone's guess. No one other than the people that are actually pushing these things behind the scenes really know what's going on. But I do think that if it is to stick around, the logical step is that you hope something happens with the ACC to give a West Virginia and a UCF some partners out east, because they are out there by their lonesome, and West Virginia was by its damn self alone for a really long time. So, you've got no problem with the Western travel. You've got enough teams out there, but it is time to look east if you're going to do that. So that's why the whole ACC thing just makes that much more sense as a puzzle piece, and would hopefully give some relief to a West Virginia and UCF and give them some more geographically friendly rivals potentially. So if you're a West Virginia fan, you're hoping eat S Pitt, like come on down, or someone along those lines to give you a travel partner that's a little bit closer by.
I don't want to see the ACC go away.
I don't either.
I want to see it get better.
I think the people that root for that, it's kind of like with the Pac-12. Like the Pac-12 thing wouldn't have been so personal if there weren't certain people on the Pac-12 side of things making it personal.
Yeah.
And then only to have egg on their face afterwards. Like a lot of people it's fine to be wrong about things, but it's like when you make it a personal issue, that's when I kind of like, okay, well now it's personal, right? So then it became a personal thing of like, you highfalutin, nose thumbing, West Coast, kind of thing. It became that sort of a thing of like, they won't accept us. Well, now we're going to tear them apart. And then it became a war of sorts. Now, did it benefit the Big 12 in the immediate? Yes. Is it going to benefit them long-term? Probably. Was it great for college football as a whole? Depends on what you're looking at, because one could argue that, no, it's not great to have less power conferences. And the worst thing that could happen would then be, the ACC then goes to the wayside. But yeah, that's all big picture conversation.
I would say, like, in the next 10 years, I think that the Big 12 and ACC particularly need to just have a conversation, especially if you see things going with the SEC and Big 10 the way that, like, the scary way is, why don't we get together and, like, make some sort of agreement where this is Big 12 conference, this is ACC conference. There's like a trade of sorts that makes sense, and then like somewhere in the middle, like,
or maybe they'll have. I mean, I don't want to get too far in on the game day preview show type of thing, because we got all off season to talk about these things. But maybe they're their own secondary league combined, or maybe parts are taken from each one of them and they're then combining together, and they're the BACD12 or like whatever, but that's for a different time period really. But the point being with this list is you'd like to ideally, if things do remain as is, however you can add some East Coast flavor for a West Virginia and UCF, that would be great, I think, in their book.
Okay, last thing before we get to Zack Barnett in the next segment. The Matador Club. Cody Campbell says they've raised $63.3 million over their existence from 3,500 donors. He says there's no way, based on the information I have, that anyone has come even close to matching this number in a donor collective. That is a ton of money. Well, when you have guys like him, like the other 3,500, like they're like you can take like there's 25 guys of that 3,500 that make up a lot of that 63 million. But the fact is, you've got a very engaged NIL collective, no matter what.
I mean, I'm ready to see rubber meet the road for Texas Tech. It's been an entire offseason of talking about money, and so now it's time to play games. And I do think in a league like the Big 12, where everybody is equal. I was on Sons of UCF last night. Shout out to those guys, Adam and Trace. I do think when it comes to Texas Tech, they basically asked me, like, do you believe in this whole thing? And I was like, yeah, I believe in it because they've gone and got really good talent. And I do think that when you've spent tens of millions of dollars, that there should be no expectation other than, like, the bare minimum. The bare minimum is being in Arlington playing in the Big 12 title game. Bare minimum. If you're not in the title game, then one thing had to have happened, and that is some types of injuries or just extreme bad luck, which could include injuries. But bare minimum, if you are not in Arlington, I think that's a loss. But do I believe in them, as those guys ask? Like, yeah, I do. And I do think in a league where there's not much separation of talent, if somebody's gone out and spent tens of millions of dollars to get an advantage in talent and gone and gotten the number one portal class, and everybody else is just kind of somewhere in the rankings or resting more on what they already had, then you should have an advantage. You should have a great advantage. You should be the team that has the clear talent advantage in the league. And so therefore, what's stopping you from being the best team in the league at that point? I mean, really only coaching would be, I guess, the thing you would have to point to. I mean, we'll cross that bridge when we get there, but yeah, they put up the money. Now it's time to put up the results. And I don't love this like whole just overall side of college football of just the money. But I'm sure if you're a Texas Tech fan, like you're loving it. And I based on everything I've seen, they are. So will they be loving the result at the end? I think there's a very strong chance they will be because of the money that they've spent and the talent that they've brought in, and just up to Joey McGuire to put it all together and hope that they avoid more injuries like the Quentin Joyner situation. And so long as they do, then there's no excuses, and there's no end in sight to that money, especially if they have success this year. I mean, that faucet's only going to get turned on even further. It's not going to if they go win the Big 12, then we're going to be seeing a graphic that's like 83 million next year, because that's just going to make the fan base that's already pretty rabid even more rabid. So, yeah, I mean, they've had the number one transfer class. They've got the most donors paying the most money. They've got the nicest facility. They've had a big offseason, and now we'll see what they do with it.
All right, and when we come back, Zack Barnett, footballscoop.com, joins us. This is 365 Sports.
That's my go-to guy. Can you fix my smartphone?
Yes.
Do you have car batteries?
Yeah.
What about golf cart batteries?
Of course.
Battery from a G-Fob?
Absolutely.
My boat?
Huge variety.
Toy boat?
Sure.
Motorcycles?
You bet.
My apartment building?
Whole building.
Do you have batteries for my party lights?
Yeah.
Batteries Plus, the experts in charge.
Big savings are waiting at Allen Samuels in Waco during the Make This the Summer event. Check out the all-new Jeeps that are arriving daily. Drive off in a 2025 Jeep Wrangler Sport for just $29,990. Or grab a new Jeep Compass Latitude for only $26,700. The road and trails are calling, and wrap up your summer in style with the Make This the Summer event at Allen Samuels.
Come by, let's be friends.
I'll never get used to this. I'll never get used to this. This is how I wanna live. Forever we'll be singing like, oh, I'll never get used to this. I'll never get used to this. I'll never get used to this. This is how I wanna live. This is how I wanna. Forever we'll be singing like, oh, I'll never get used to this.
Whatever it is you wrangle, whatever seeds you sow, no matter what you nurture or what you choose to grow, at Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, we're proud to protect all Texans.
Developed by Startup Waco, a nonprofit organization, GXG is a program designed to support the entrepreneurial development of Baylor University student athletes through NIL activations. The program helps student athletes maximize their platforms and offers a comprehensive support system for them to create and grow new businesses that not only benefit themselves, but also uplift the local economy. Fans who wish to support student athletes can donate to GXG via the GXG NIL Fund, BaylorBears.com/GXG. Contributions to support NIL activations through GXG can be made at BaylorBears.com/GXG. For more information, follow @GXG_GreenXGold on social media and visit the official website www.gxg.startupwaco.com. GXG, empowering student-athlete entrepreneurship and uplifting the local economy through NIL activations.
Make this the summer event at Allen Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram, where big plans start with the perfect ride at great deals. From weekend getaways to daily drives, your next new truck, SUV, or car is waiting.
Come by. Let's be friends.
You got batteries for my side-by-side?
Yes.
Replace my flashlight?
Sure thing. What about my business?
Ooh, good one.
100%.
Batteries for my fleet of trucks?
Got floor scrubbers?
Yes, and fire panels.
We have pallets of batteries.
Well, what about...
As your go-to guy, if it needs a battery, we have it.
Well, that's all you had to say.
Could have led with that.
Batteries Plus, the experts in charge.
This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Zack Barnett, footballscoop.com, joins us now. And Zack, the season's here. Do you have a content, like a brain shift now that, and you guys cover a lot of coaching news and you cover it really well. So that's good. You don't have to get in the weeds of like the craziness of the off season as much as maybe some others do. But do you have like a brain shift of like, oh, now I have to talk about like actual touchdowns and fumbles and stuff?
Yeah, it's funny. And it hit me today. Like we have I host a college football show on the Ticket here in Dallas on Saturdays during the fall, and we have our first show tomorrow. So this will be our third year to do it, and I'm finding myself getting back in the routine of, all right, what are we going to talk about? Okay, let me do my prep for there. I've got certain people I watch, certain people I read for game breakdowns, and they're starting to put their stuff out for not just like, who I think is going to be good, but who's going to win this game, what are the keys to that game, and I'm like, I've been waiting since January, and now it's here, and it's like, wow, it hit me kind of like a ton of bricks. And so before we know it, it'll be January and time to start this whole cycle over again. But I find myself more excited than ever to get back into this season.
Were you always a P1, Zack? Like, was being on the Ticket like a dream gig? Like, I don't know about your background so much, but as a P1 myself, I just wondered about that.
Yeah, I would, if I had to sit here and give you under truth serum and say how much listening to the Ticket has shaped my life and my personality, it would probably be shocking. I would say, yes, I'm a P1, and my devotion to the Ticket has probably been way too far, too deep to even be healthy. But I'm in the ecosystem. I'm on the totem pole hosting a show on that station. If you told me that I would be doing that when I was a teenager, I would be, in disbelief. So to think that I get to do that every week during the fall is a dream come true, and then some.
Yeah, no, that's very, very cool, man. So congrats on that. I know you've been doing it for a while now, but yeah, that's awesome. So, man, the big game that kicks everything off tomorrow. We got a conference game. We got a game in Ireland. It's got all sorts of cool uniqueness to it. Iowa State, K-State. It's also Farmagedon. It's two teams that Zach, I think in this league are in that clump of teams that you go, yeah, they could be in the title game, and yeah, they could win the Big 12. What are your initial thoughts on K-State, Iowa State tomorrow in Dublin?
I think I'm really glad we're getting this game, and this game, as weird as it is to be happening in Ireland, I'm glad that it has its own standalone spotlight, because it's one of college football's underrated rivalries. And it's, as you mentioned, obviously a huge game for Big 12 championship implications. Like half this conference could easily win it, and someone's going to be behind the 8 ball to win the conference and get into the playoff before the season even really starts. And these week 0 games have a way of being more than just a sideshow. They kind of set the stage for the entire season. I know it was an FCS game, but I'm recalling Carson Wentz having a coming out party at North Dakota State and eventually being the number 2 pick in the draft or whatever he was. Northwestern, I recall, beating Nebraska, and Scott Frost got fired that season. Last year, Florida State, Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech, as we saw, ended up being a lot better than everyone thought, and Florida State was worse than anyone could ever imagine. So I think this game it's not a preseason game. It is an important, this would be a big game in November, and we're getting it in mid-August. So I think it's one of those that someone's going to feel really horrible about themselves as they make that 10-hour flight from Ireland to the American Midwest. And I'm, as sick as this sounds, I'm really excited for someone to be absolutely disgusted for 12 hours on an airplane.
Craig, what was that last one he was talking about? The last one in Ireland? I've blacked out from that.
The what in Ireland?
The last game that was in Ireland before this one.
Was it Georgia Tech and?
Yeah, see,
Georgia Tech, Florida State.
I blocked it from my memory.
Oh, okay. You're trying to make a joke.
Oh,
now I get it. It says Florida State fan Paul here. Yes, okay. Now I understand.
I'm like, listen, Zach, when you're going to come on this show, you have to talk about things that really happened. No.
I would not claim that season at all if I was in your shoes either.
No, I think the best thing for my psyche is to become a conspiracy theorist about it and be like, oh yeah, we never did land on the moon. And that didn't happen. So that's the best thing. So Zach, you did a deep dive. I guess it was yesterday, right? On the Big 12 quarterbacks. You looked at all of them and where they're from and all this. It was really kind of cool article to look at and go through and kind of all this. What do you think, one, about the depth of the quarterbacks in this league, and then two, Bear Bachmeier, like starting as a true freshman at BYU? That's a little bit out of left field.
Yeah, so far, one interesting nugget that I've come over is I've cataloged the Big 12 and the ACC, and between the two of them, and then I'm also deep into the SEC and the Big 10. So as far as I know, as of right now, there are going to be 2 true freshmen starting quarterbacks in the Power 4. And both of those guys are transfers. Like Cal starting quarterback, who I'm not even going to try and say his name. You can look it up. And then Bear Bachmeier. They're going to start as true freshmen, and neither one of them signed with their schools in December. I mean, that Bear Bachmeier didn't even – he went through spring ball at Stanford, and like 4 months later, he's starting for BYU. So I know a lot of people are high on BYU. I find it unlikely to think that Bear Bachmeier, as a true freshman, is going to go out and beat a lot of these guys. The majority of there's far more quarterbacks, especially in the Big 12, from the 2021 class than even the 2024 class, let alone 2025. So what we're seeing in what I've learned in studying this is it's far more likely that these guys are not going to have a high level quarterback recruit. You're probably not going to have the career you think you're going to have. Like, there's going to be a benching. You're going to lose a quarterback battle. There's going to be a coaching change at some point. More often than not, or equally likely as not, you're going to have to transfer to find your eventual forever home, wherever that may be. And it's not going to be the career you envision. But if you're willing to see through that and you're good enough and you have what it takes, you can go have a fruitful career. And at least in comparison to the ACC, the Big 12 brings back a lot more veteran guys that have either going into their second year as a starter at their Big 12 school, or they started somewhere else and now are transferring in. The number that jumped out to me was the median number of returning starts for an ACC quarterback is like 12 and a half. In the Big 12, it's 17. So you have a lot more guys, a lot fewer quarterbacks in the Big 12 that have no experience, or guys that are going into their second, third year, for the median to be like a whole half a season more of starts, I think, underscores the type of season we all expect to have from the Big 12, where, half of this league could easily win the conference and only one of them is going to.
So, Zach, there's 4 more games tomorrow. UNLV, Idaho State, KU, Jalen Daniels, they've got their stadium that they're ready to reveal against Fresno State. Western Kentucky hosting Sam Houston, and Hawaii hosting Stanford. Do any of those particularly pop out for one reason or another? I just want to make sure we're covering all our bases on this opening weekend, but did you have your interest piqued by any of those other 4 in any particular way?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to dive too much into personal information right now, but if I had $1,000 free to bet, I would put it on Western Kentucky to cover the 10.5 against Sam Houston. Sam Houston, basically their entire defense now plays for North Texas. They hired Skylar Watson. North Texas did their coordinator, and I think he brought 10 guys with him to Denton. So you have Phil Longo as a brand new head coach with an entirely new defense, going on the road in week 0 to Western Kentucky, that the last time they had a starting quarterback that didn't throw for 4,500 yards in the season, I think, was like 1974. Now, I'm obviously making that up, but my vision of Western Kentucky is they can't do a lot of things. They throw the football, they score points every single year, almost no matter who's the head coach. So to think that in game 1, Sam Houston's going to go on the road and stay within 10.5 points, whatever the number is, of Western Kentucky, I find that hard to believe in. I don't do this often, but I would feel very comfortable betting Western Kentucky in laying the points.
Kansas tomorrow, they have Fresno State at home at the booth at the new stadium. Matt Entz takes over there at Fresno State. Is very accomplished coach at North Dakota State. Nothing's a gimme for Kansas. I don't think their fans live in that world where they think that they can just roll in and win games. But Jalen Daniels is healthy. Is now the time for them to get a nice opening win over a good G6 opponent and kind of build some momentum towards at least staying in this Big 12 race for a little while?
Yeah, and I think I'm going to throw a flag on Kansas fans not taking gimmies. I think if Kansas loses to Fresno State, they're not going to walk out saying, "Hey, we're Kansas." They're going to be freaking pissed. And I'd be right there with them if I was a Kansas fan, especially considering all that they've invested in that program. I mean, they're into that stadium. They're putting $500 million to basically rebuild the booth on top of its old self. So Jalen Daniels is a class of 2020 quarterback, I believe. Fresno State's got a really good quarterback, a really solid college quarterback in E.J. Warner. So this is by no means a gimme, but this is a game. I mean, we talked about Kansas State and Iowa State. One of them is going to feel really bad about themselves before the season really starts. Kansas is going to feel they're going to feel terrible if they lose this game. And the unofficial unveiling, they've only built half of it, but the soft opening of their quote unquote brand new stadium, to lose to a Mountain West team under game 1 of their head coach, this is a must win for them.
So, Zach, yeah, I mean, there's no doubt. I agree with you 100%. So there's games going on, but it's college football these days, so there's also extracurricular stuff going on as well. And I think next week when there's this full flood of games, there's going to be little room to talk about the playoff and all these different things. But we did get the SEC scheduling news yesterday. People have been awaiting that for a very long time, and now it's kind of unpacking. Well, first of all, brilliant timing by Sankey to lay that out now, and everybody's talking about it. But what it all means in the end is kind of still a gray area. But what were your thoughts when you saw the SEC make it official with 9 conference games moving forward?
I was glad to see it. Your most important stakeholders in any sport are your fans, and to give them another SEC game while also requiring to play a Power 4 non-conference opponent. So you're taking away a SoCon opponent and adding an SEC opponent. I think that's great. I mean, the stat that everybody throws out there is Georgia still has not played at Kyle Field, despite the fact that A&M joined the SEC in the Obama administration. Seems impossible, but that's the reality we're living in. So more SEC games, I think, is great. I think it probably makes the 5+11 seem more likely for the SEC. I wish they'd stay at 12, but I could think I don't see the Big Ten completely folding up shop on their cockamamie scheme to get 14 or 28 or whatever the number is, because now the idea of an SEC team, a really good SEC team going 8-4 seems more likely than it did 3 days ago. So having that protection of, if we just get into the top 6, we can go schedule a really tough non-conference game and lose it. We can go schedule an additional SEC game and lose it and still have a chance to play for a national championship. That probably sounds more appealing if I'm an SEC athletic director than it did 72 hours ago.
Who loses in this? Is it schools like that may have future games scheduled with a team like Georgia has FSU, Ohio State, other teams on the schedule, but they have Georgia Tech. So do they take their rival, or do they kill a rivalry and keep those games? Are there any losers in the SEC 9-game scenario?
Yeah, your losers are your Missouris, your Kentuckys, your Mississippi States. Getting to 6-6 just got that much harder. I mean, I don't think it's a secret that the one SEC coach that's gone on the record in favor of the Big Ten's watered down college football playoff was Eli Drinkwitz. Missouri had no business playing for a national championship last season, and thankfully did not make it. But Eli Drinkwitz was putting his fist on the table hard for this Big Ten plan, because it's realistically the only chance Missouri will ever have to compete for a national championship. And I think he knows it, even if he doesn't want to admit it. So your middle to lower class, your Arkansas, even your Ole Misses, your Auburns, I think it's going to get that much tougher knowing that they have to go play each other, play another game against the upper class of that conference. It's going to be harder for those coaches to get contract extensions, for those ADs to get extensions, for your fundraisers to go out and hit their marks when your team that used to go 8-4 is now going 6-6. Those are the losers. So in that regard, I salute the SEC for pushing through with this, even though it's going to make life harder for some of their schools.
Yeah, certainly will. I saw this tweet from you and went and read the article, but Urban Meyer wants the NFL to suspend Jim Harbaugh for his NCAA violations. He on his podcast, he mentioned that Jim Tressel got suspended by the Colts for 6 games. It's kind of, I mean, he knows it'll never happen. I think it's funny to have Urban Meyer, of all people, try to, ride the moral high ground of doing things right. And it's just more like Ohio State, Michigan hatred here. But it is strange for me to hear a guy who got sued by his kicker for assaulting him during a warm-up, try to ride the high ground about what the NFL should do about Jim Harbaugh.
It's funny, but it's one of those, is he wrong?
He's not wrong, though.
He's not wrong. And my other takeaway is that Alabama and Auburn fans love to pound their chest and say they're the most intense rivalry in college football. They're not. Alabama and Auburn people work together. They go to church together. I think Kalen DeBoer and Hugh Freeze, if they were seated next to each other at a banquet, would probably have a friendly, cordial conversation. Everyone at Michigan absolutely hates everyone at Ohio State. Urban Meyer hates Jim Harbaugh as a human being. Jim Harbaugh hates Urban Meyer as a human being. He hates Ryan Day as a human being. There's true hatred at the core of this rivalry. And I understand the Alabama Auburn argument is, familiarity breeds contempt, and because we live next to these people and work next to these people, we compete, we argue 365 days a year. But I'm sympathetic to that argument. We live it here. Baylor TCU has that same dynamic. UT&M has that same dynamic. So I'm sympathetic to it. But at the end of the day, you have to find a way to coexist with these people. Your Michigan, Ohio State people, there's probably not as much intermingling between those people on a day-to-day basis as there is in these interstate rivalries, but they all freaking just absolutely hate each other.
Yeah, it's crazy. All right, Zach, official, make your pick. Who you got, Iowa State or Kansas State?
I'm going to go Kansas State. Iowa State leaned heavily on a pair of receivers. They're now in the NFL. I don't think in game one they're going to be able to generate enough offense to beat K-State.
All right. Zach, you heard it from Zach. He's picking K-State. We'll make our picks a little bit later in the show. Zach, great to talk to you. We're going to have Zach regularly. We don't know exactly when yet, but we're going to work that out next week. He'll be a regular guest. Go to footballscoop.com. Zach and John, everybody do a great job, especially when it comes to you're my first look every morning when I get up when coaches are moving around. Like, you're my first look. Because you guys are so on top of it, especially, I can get a tweet from someone that just says, this is the new OC somewhere, but the details of it, I go to you guys all the time.
Appreciate that.
Yeah.
If we had a few more, then I have enough spare cash to put the money I want to down on Western Kentucky, Sam Houston, but we'll get there.
We'll get to you. I hope so. Zack Barnett, footballscoop.com. Coming up next, we're going to talk to Pat Smith. He's kind of our go-to SEC expert when it comes to the 9-game schedule. And Craig, we have a segment later in the show. I'm particularly interested in your opinion on who some of the protected rivals should be, especially since your favorite team is in that league. And one of them for Oklahoma is one of the ones that's maybe less obvious than the rest, because you have Texas that should certainly be a protected rival for them and will be. But then I think there's arguments we made for, Mizzou, Arkansas, and A&M that could be, although I think A&M's is maybe a little bit less than, because even when they're in the Big 12, it's not like, that was a rivalry, like Oklahoma.
No, the most famous game was them beating the brakes off of A&M 77-0.
I think A&M beat them twice, like the whole time, 3 times maybe. Like, it wasn't It might have been just once.
It was interesting because they weren't after some of the same recruits. It was not in any way, shape, or form what I would consider a rivalry.
No.
No, I don't think A&M is a rival of Oklahoma's moving forward. Texas is obvious. I think Missouri is more of a given than A&M certainly would be. And then you can have a conversation, I think, beyond that. But, there's going to be some people that probably don't love their draw. But then, I think it'll be really – I've seen a lot of predictions about what these all are going to be out there today and last night. And I think, you can probably peg 1 or 2 of the obvious ones for everybody. But, who's that third game for several of those teams? And will they be happy with it or not? Or do you get 2 guaranteed games that are much tougher than the other guaranteed? Like, what will the balancing act be as far as all of that goes? So, I don't know. We can talk about that later, though.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we're going to talk about that. But, do we trust the SEC administration to get it right? The Big 12 has never quite figured it out through many administrations. The Big 10, theirs was kind of clever, although, it's a little more fluid with the 18 teams. So we'll see. Pat Smith, 3-man front, coming up next. This is 365 Sports.
Big savings are waiting at Allen Samuels in Waco. Drive off in a 2025 Jeep Wrangler Sport for just $29,990, or grab a new Jeep Compass Latitude for only $26,700. The road and trails are calling. And wrap up your summer in style with the Make This the Summer event at Allen Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram.
Come by. Let's be friends.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
Don's Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. Don's Humidor in the Townwood Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
Ready to take your business to the next level? Carrion Solutions has got you covered. We deliver world-class IT consulting, including Quest On Demand and Migration Manager, M365 and Exchange migrations, Active Directory assessments, security hardening, and Windows Server upgrades. Our experts specialize in consulting, monitoring, support, and managed IT services. We promise vision, professionalism, and unbeatable value. Satisfaction guaranteed. If you're not happy, we make it right. Remember the name Carrion Solutions. For more info, email sales@carrionsolutions.com or visit carrionsolutions.com. That's CARRION solutions.com. Carrion Solutions, IT success guaranteed.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
This is 365 Sports. Text us at 254-339-1122. The text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
Welcome back. 365 Sports, Paul Catalina and Craig Smoak. And Pat Smith, our good friend, our SEC go-to. Pat, you tweeted out last night, and I really appreciate this because I didn't have to look for it, but I knew that a couple of years ago when the SEC first discussed going to 9 games, that they had a format of who the 3 protected rivals would be, and Brandon will put that up on the screen here in just a second. How close to that list do you think that they will keep, and what do you think has changed in that time?
Yeah, it's always great to be on. Here's the interesting thing, and this is one of the last times that Nick Saban kind of went crazy about something. Basically, what took place was the SEC behind the scenes. They've been working on this for about 4 years about going to potentially the 9 games, and so basically what happened was they went back and they took an average of everyone's record over a 10-year period, and basically they used that to try to protect rivalries and then also kind of put you in a situation of the potential teams that you could play in the future. Well, Alabama's came up because Tennessee has always been one of the historic rivalries. Basically, it's always been Tennessee and Auburn. Well, Tennessee, over the course of the 10-year period that the SEC used the data, they weren't very good. And so Tennessee was able to slide in there. Well, LSU's been really, really good over the course of the last 10 to 15 years. And so Alabama was going to have to play Auburn, LSU, and Tennessee based on that data. So Nick Saban lost it. Like Nick Saban, since 2014, he has been clamoring about having a 9-game conference schedule. He was one of the very first people in the SEC saying this is ridiculous. We need to go to 9, blah, 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 blah. And the conference never did it, obviously, when he was there. And then all of a sudden, he was against the 9-game because he was like, if this is going to be potentially what I'm going to have to play, that this is not right. Like, I do not want to do that. So I'm not really sure exactly moving forward if they're going to go back 12 years, 10 years, 7 years, 6 years, whatever the case may be. But they're going to have to do some diving and put some decimal points to stuff to try to figure out who potentially, because you want to put them in tiers. You want to put them in the top tier, middle tier, and the bottom tier. And so obviously Tennessee at one time was in the bottom tier, but they're not anymore. So that's why Alabama's might fluctuate. So, but it is an interesting list, at least to work off of. And for shows like yours and mine, it's something that we at least can have some fun with.
Yeah, Pat, it's cool to look at and cool to kind of figure out how this might all work. And I think exciting for the teams that are involved, depending on what your projection looks like, right? Because some of them might be a bit more difficult than others. But this was a long time coming. I don't think Greg Sankey's just randomly throwing this out, this timing-wise, the week leading into the opening of college football weekend. There's money involved, and there's the strength of schedule component as well that clearly got to the point where they were comfortable enough that, hey, now we'll jump off the diving board and we'll go to 9 games. How's this sort of been received in SEC country? Are people pumped up about it? Are they a little bit worried that, hey, my team might not make bowl games as much? Kind of what's been the reaction you've seen over the last 24 hours?
Well, I'll answer the first part first in regards to Greg Sankey. Greg Sankey has been working on this, like I said at the beginning of the interview, for 4 years. I mean, every single time they got together, whether it was in Birmingham for just general meetings, whether it was spring meetings down in Destin, this was a hot topic of conversation. So take you back a few years ago, basically they presented it to ESPN and it was very close to happening. ESPN said, guys, we already pay you a lot of money. We're not paying you for an additional 9th conference game. Like we're not doing that. Well, at that point in time, the presidents of the SEC said, okay, well, if we're not going to make any more money off of it, then why are we going to put our teams in harm's way of not making the college football playoff? So we're going to stay at 8. Well, interesting thing happened. ESPN a couple of years ago came back to the table and said, you know what? This is going to be worth an extra $4 to $5 million per team every year if you add an additional 9th game. And so that got the SEC's attention. And then we've had all this problem between the Big Ten and the SEC trying to figure out automatic qualifiers, the 5+11 model, all that kind of stuff. And so they basically punted it this last spring. But then once Greg Sankey and the SEC sent out their wonderful little packet of information at SEC spring meetings about how tough the conference was, all the data points with strength of schedule, then lo and behold, the college football playoff decides to change that model in regards to their formula with the strength of schedule. And then the SEC gets on a call this week and they said, you know what? I think it's time for us to go ahead and pull the trigger and move forward. But as far as the fans go, it is split, guys. I mean, it is right down the middle because you've got the old guard in the SEC. They do not want to mess up any type of rivalry whatsoever. They want to stay the way it is at 8. They don't want to go to the 9. But the younger generation, they're like, look, more good games. I'm all about it in this now world of college football playoff, which is basically NFL light. You've got to have the mindset that you're going to lose multiple games per year. You're not going to go undefeated to win a national championship. So I think the younger crowd is all for it.
Pat, just looking at this list that they had, one of the teams I think that would get kind of screwed in this as far as old versus new SEC is Florida, because they would have the cocktail party with Georgia is protected. That one's, obviously you can't get rid of that one. But, somebody's got to get South Carolina, who is still, even though they've been in for quite a while now, a relative newbie to the league, right? With no, titles or any kind of great thing there's not a rivalry there that goes back, like the cocktail party. And then Oklahoma, which would be awesome to see every year. But I would say that Florida's biggest rivals within the SEC outside of Georgia are LSU and Tennessee, and they wouldn't be protected and they would rotate through those. So those fans would kind of maybe I would hear their gripes and be like, okay, great, we can play Oklahoma, but we don't want to play South Carolina every year. We didn't like playing South Carolina every year when we played South Carolina every year.
Right. And that's the thing, the fun thing about this exercise, because those teams that you see listed on there, you have to think of them in tiers.
Yeah.
And so with South Carolina being at the time a team that was not very good under Will Muschamp and things of that nature during the time frame that they used this data, that's why South Carolina fits in where they currently fit in. That's why these, especially maybe the second and third tier teams, those would absolutely change in regards to the way they move forward and what they look like. The thing that the SEC, besides the fact that they want to, be in a good position for the college football playoff, there's a situation, guys, and y'all are in the state of Texas. This is crazy. Texas A&M has been in the SEC since 2012. The University of Georgia has never stepped foot inside Kyle Field and played the Texas A&M Aggies. Never. As a member of the Southeastern Conference. Now, A&M's gone to Athens, and of course, last year, Georgia went to Texas, but Georgia's never played inside Kyle Field. That is ridiculous for Texas A&M to be in the league that long and the conference the way they have done their scheduling, that those two teams have never played. They want to set it up to where the rotation happens, where at least every 2 to 3 years, you're going to get to see a different school. That way the fans stay interested, and obviously the TV folks will be very happy about that.
So when it comes to Bama and Auburn, they got Iron Bowl already locked in, right? Is there would Bama have to play Tennessee, or would there be a third team that seems automatic for them? And then for Auburn, what is it? Alabama, Georgia, and who do you think that third team would be if you had your way with it?
Well, it's interesting because a lot of Alabama fans called in my radio show today, and they were basically, and I know you guys are going to laugh when I say this, but the closest schools in proximity in the Southeastern Conference are Mississippi State and Alabama. Tuscaloosa to Starkville is the closest distance between any two schools in the Southeastern Conference. In the last 2 years, Alabama and Mississippi State, they haven't played. These two teams have got a long history with one another. Of course, Alabama, I think, has won 80. Now, I'm not lying when I say this. I think they're like 85-12 all time against Mississippi State. So a lot of Alabama fans are like going, look, forget about, LSU or Tennessee, but, we need to play Mississippi State. And then you have the Auburn people that are saying, well, we've always had a really good relationship with, even like a Florida. I mean, they haven't played Florida at home, I think, in about 11 years, which is crazy. Two big names in the conference like Auburn and Florida, and they haven't played at Jordan-Hare that long. So it's a situation where I think the conference is going to do their best to try to make sure that those little instances that I just talked about will not happen in the near future, and it will make ESPN and the TV people very happy.
So you sound like you do have, in the Big 12, if they had to do this, even with the new leadership and how good it's been, Farmagedon's not a protected rivalry. That game's happening tomorrow in Ireland. And next year, we don't know if it's going to be played, right? And they kind of screwed it up with Texas and Oklahoma and Nebraska from the beginning, back when the conference formed. But you're confident the SEC leadership will be able to get to some sort of point that the fans will be mostly happy and not aggrieved?
I think more than anything in the world, you will have the protection. And that's why, and one of the things that the SEC released yesterday, they want to protect a lot of the SEC, ACC rivalries. So think about this. You got Florida State, okay? Well, if you got 9 conference games and then you've got that game to end the year, all of a sudden that's 10 big games. They want to protect South Carolina and Clemson. They want to protect Georgia Tech. They want to protect Louisville and Kentucky. All these Southeastern rivalries with some of these ACC schools. So they put in there, so if an Alabama doesn't have that ACC rivalry, they still have to go out and play a Power 4 opponent or Notre Dame to fit the bill of the 10 Power 4 games. So you've got your 9 that's going to be required because that's conference games. But the SEC is also telling you out of your 12, you're going to have to add another Power 4. So with the SEC always being dinged about these cupcake games, lettuce games, playing FCS teams, stuff like that, they're going to have 2 opportunities now as opposed to the 4 that they used to have.
At worst, I think the fact that it's week 0 and there's a handful of games but no SEC teams playing, this gave everybody something to chew on for one more week, certainly have fun with before we get into the full meal deal next week. I do need to ask you, since you're right there at ground zero, basically, there was a story earlier this week. I went to bed and Oklahoma had more national titles than Auburn, and I woke up and they didn't anymore because Auburn had claimed these titles. Now, I know there were some that were unofficially official, but what's kind of been the reaction to Auburn saying, hey, man, we're all of a sudden now was it 7 or was it 9-time national?
7.
What is it?
Now they're 9. Yeah, there was 2 that was always recognized, 57 and 2010 with Cam Newton. But, yeah, we all woke up the next morning, and then all of a sudden they had the 1910, 1913, 1914, and so on and so forth. Auburn people, they're loving it because for so many years, back in 1984, Alabama, all of a sudden their SID found 5 national championships. They went from having 6 national championships to 11 national championships in the mid-'80s, and that's just kind of the general standard now of how many Alabama's won, which is the Alabama fans, they say they won 18. So Auburn said, well, you know what? I know we're the little brother in the state, but you know what? If y'all can do it, we can do it. And who cares what anybody else thinks nationally? We're Auburn and we're family, and we're going to say that we're 9-time national champion. Guys, they had those numbers, and that stadium was painted before that story got out to everybody else. It was pretty amazing. They are relishing in it, and they're loving it. And Alabama fans just have to sit back because for many, many years, they did the same thing.
I'll give him Jason Campbell was on the show the other day. He convinced me. 2004, I'm fine with.
2004, listen, that team, Bob Stoops, Big Game Bob, he ran his mouth that whole year, and just, of course, where Auburn started the season in the rankings, that ultimately screwed them out of an opportunity to play for the national championship. And you guys remember what a lopsided, ugly national championship game that was. Auburn would have been a much better matchup than Oklahoma and USC.
Yeah. All right. I didn't ask you this, and now it occurs to me I didn't. So do you think that this schedule at 9 games changes their mind about the automatic qualifiers, or they're still on the 5+11? Because the coaches were probably
5+11.
Okay.
Yeah, 5+. They are absolutely that. There is no momentum whatsoever. The love affair that was going on between Tony Petitti and Greg Sankey, that has definitely hit a rocky patch right now. The SEC, they're pretty much hell bent right now, and the people that I talk to, it is 5+11. Period. Now, if you want to expand it a few more teams or whatever, we can talk about 5+ whatever. But as far as the automatic qualifying goes, the SEC right now is falling in line with what Brett Yormark and obviously what Jim Phillips is saying in the ACC. So you got 3 against 1 right now. And with Tony Petitti coming out with that ridiculous idea over the weekend of 24, 26 teams, this is not the NCAA basketball tournament. This is college football. So the SEC is going to hold firm on that. So we'll see what happens. I firmly believe, guys, that next year we will remain at 12. And then they're going to get all their ducks in a row. And that's going to be another year of everybody arguing and kicking the can down the road. And then the next year after that, I think that's when you'll see wholesale changes.
Yeah, when I saw that, I thought it was like a fake account, with there's no way.
Exactly.
I thought it was like a spoof account. Then I thought, is Tony Petitti like in his office doing cocaine and just been like, 28, let's go. What is going on? Well, Pat, Pat, we're probably going to have you back on next week because Baylor plays Auburn. And we'll have to break all that down. And apparently,
absolutely.
Okay, real quick. Hugh Freeze playing all 3 quarterbacks, or is that gamesmanship?
That's gamesmanship.
Yeah.
Just like he told everyone in the media here in Alabama that they have a different coach calling the play on every down. It's crazy. It's crazy. And I didn't make that up. You can pull the audio. Yeah, you can pull the audio. It's there.
And then he kind of walked it back, but didn't walk it all the way back. Like, it was very weird.
Let me tell you something. Having to cover Alabama and Auburn on a daily basis, we are in heaven. It is like gold every single day in regards to what we're covering and what they're saying. So it's a great job to be in Birmingham, Alabama in football season. I promise you.
Yeah. Pat Smith, co-host of the 3-Man Front. Pat, we'll talk to you again next week.
Sounds good, brother. Take care.
All right. It's Pat Smith, one of our favorite guests. Yeah, Craig, I'm just looking I think it would be great for Florida and Oklahoma to play every year. I would love that as a football fan, but there's no rivalry there. It's just
saying that they should.
That's in that list right there.
Okay.
Yeah. So the list that he had, the initial one they had before the tiers,
gotcha.
Florida and Oklahoma would be playing every year.
Yeah, I think there's just not a perfect combination, so you're going to have some weird matchups like that. But he made a really compelling point there about Alabama and Mississippi State. If they are the 2 closest to each other and they're not playing, that is kind of wonky. But I guess the big gripe would be, well, Alabama gets Mississippi State every year.
Yeah.
But, I guess you can't rig it to where – let's not make sense just to try to hurt Alabama. If they – there's 2 other spots. Obviously, Auburn's going to be a tough one every year, and then I would assume Tennessee. So Auburn, Tennessee, Mississippi State would be just fine. I think everybody should kind of have 2 names if it could work out possibly, and then one of those that's just sort of any given year they might be great, like a South Carolina or a Mississippi State or someone along those lines, and then some years they may not be as great, and they're not quite to that that national blue blood recognition sort of level. So yeah, if you had Bama and Georgia and then Vanderbilt, that kind of, I could see it working out that way. So yeah, I'd have no problem if Alabama was playing Auburn and Tennessee if they then played Mississippi. I mean, what do you want to play, Georgia too? I mean, I get though that there's the rivalry component, but the geography makes that make sense. Yeah. So I'd be okay with that. But yeah, I saw there's like a lot in the last 24 hours, a lot of people doing this exercise. Yeah. And so I've seen the Florida-Oklahoma thing. There's no rivalry. There's no real history. The last time they had a big significant, I think, kind of moment between each other would have been the Urban guys and that whole demolishing of Oklahoma in the national championship game is what sticks out to me the most, when Oklahoma was on that run of making title games left and right and winning absolutely none of them. Mm-hmm. They played in 2020 as well, and that's it. I mean, they played twice. They played in the national title game and then in 2020, and nobody even remembers what happened in 2020. So, that's one that's a little bit more peculiar, but I don't think that you can really have it perfect. And they still have it a lot better than a lot of other conferences. If you were to suddenly say, like, all right, put your permanent, like the Big 12 would be kind of weird. Like, who do you, it'd be kind of a fun exercise of like Baylor, do you play Tech and TCU, and then who's your third? So it's kind of fun they're getting to do that. I think that's a neat exercise to be able to play around with and know it's actually going to be a real thing. That's a great way to kill a week 0 when you're waiting on these games to start if you're an SEC fan.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or just an outsider fan who thinks it's kind of cool that they're going to be doing this as well, and you enjoy that kind of exercise.
Yeah, let's go through a couple of things that we didn't get to here real quick before Dave Wilson. Particularly, look, with Florida's move to a 9-game schedule, they've got a contract with UCF. Well, obviously, Florida State is going to be protected there. So it states that they can negotiate in good faith for a more agreeable alternative dates for any of the foregoing games which cannot be played. So eventually, I guess they would have to reschedule these. But I wonder if they'll keep them. And the reason I think this is a little bit significant is right now this year, they're probably not worried all that much about playing UCF like they would be in a year where UCF was good.
I can tell you, no, they're not worried about it.
Yeah, they're not worried about it. Now, there will be years where they will be worried about it. And
hope so.
Yeah, I would think. I mean, everything's cyclical. I mean, they beat them a couple years ago. You beat them a couple years ago.
There's just a lot of uncertainty with where they are right now, Paul, with Scott Frost. Nobody really knows. I can tell you from being on again, I'll give them another shout out, Sons of UCF, being on their show last night. Me, I'm a straight shooter, so I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. And I was respectful of UCF in that I think that there's a whole bottom half that who the hell knows? I'm not going to say they're going to suck. There's a lot of signs that UCF could be very bad this year. But it's the Big 12, so could they beat a Houston randomly? Could they beat a so-and-so randomly? Absolutely they could, because we really have no earthly idea. They're like them and Oklahoma State, I think, are the two teams maybe more than anybody else. So you're like, I have no earthly idea of how many games they're going to win or how competitive they're even going to be. Either one of those teams. And so I'm looking forward to hopefully being pleasantly surprised. But yeah, I'm saying all this to say, there's excitement, but there's no grand expectations this year for UCF. And I don't think there's a real grasp of what it looks like 2, 3, 4 years now. So yeah, it's cyclical, but we'll see how cyclical this is for UCF. But you'd hope that, they can find a way to play Florida. But with the new schedule, that does eliminate a 4th game. And so if you are playing Florida State in the non-con, you have 2 games remaining. I could see where you go play Furman and then you play UCF if you're a Florida. I could see you still squeezing them in there, but we'll see. I mean, that's the thing that I think everybody's going to have to figure out, right, is what do they do with those 2 other games if they don't have that non-con permanent type of arrival like a lot of those teams do. So, hopefully they revisit this sooner rather than later, and I'll accept that they are doing exactly what this says and will negotiate in good faith. I don't want to see this just get kicked to the can completely, because I think it's very valuable for UCF to have these opportunities against the Floridas of the world. And also, I think it's just great for the state of Florida to have UF playing UCF every once in a while, or a Miami or a Florida State. Why not? Why the hell not? Would you not want that, especially if it's just a non-conference game? So, yeah, hopefully they can get this rescheduled pretty quickly.
All right. So the ACC, it would be you can go ahead and skip that one. The ACC is now discussing adding that 9th game. Now, to do it evenly is mathematically impossible without some sort of kind of quirk that they have to throw in that would rotate things the same every year. Because there's a quirk preventing it from being all the same. Yes. It's
already a quirk in play.
Which is Notre Dame.
Yes.
So some options would be counting the games against Notre Dame in the ACC standings.
Like a conference game?
Yes. But not everybody would play Notre Dame. Notre Dame would still have their schedule. Notre Dame can't play in the ACC title game. But that could be the solution to the problem and they would be the 18th team, essentially, with their 4 yearly games against the ACC.
So they're ACC in every way, shape, and form, except for they're not in the ACC, basically.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, this whole arrangement is so silly. But I do think it's important for having some sort of balance still remaining, because I think the moment that Notre Dame jumps off the boat, then that's just like all hell breaks loose and the iceberg hits and all that, because then they're like the last bastion preventing like complete domination, basically, of
They're
two
like
leagues.
They're like a big country. Like if you're playing Risk,
Yeah.
they're like the one big country that you have when the other, your opponent's like built up everything, but you still have France,
Right?
And
right.
you can,
They are, they are,
Yeah.
they are that country, France or who otherwise. So they're strategic in a major way. Yeah, I think for the overall college football big picture. But yeah, this is a Notre Dame dilemma. So the good thing, I guess, is that they have options. Of course, you'd just prefer if they just were to go and join the ACC and be full members, but we know they're not going to do that. So I did see it was a conversation in passing between just like Irish 82 and ACC fan 47 or whatever. And Notre Dame, as only so few schools can do, like, according to this one fan, like the kind of feeling was, all right, you don't want to do this, well, then we'll just leave. We'll leave. We'll remain independent in football, where Notre Dame will find opponents, and then we'll take all of our other sports to the Big East, and we'll go play there.
Yeah.
So basically, the ACC has nothing that they can do about anything when it comes to Notre Dame or problems like this that arise. Is this the end of the world? No, but it is an inconvenience, especially for those who have ADD and want balance, especially. Yeah. Like, this is probably causing them severe anxiety even thinking about this. But I'm assuming that they will go with whatever the option is that allows them to count in the ACC standings, because that'll just be the simple, clean way to do it. But yeah, it is kind of silly, and this is definitely a Notre Dame special.
Allow me to throw out a second option.
Okay, go ahead.
Take Memphis's money.
Okay, and then have another team. Yeah, well,
there you go.
Hey, Memphis, yeah, if you want to go inject some cash into the ACC, that would be one way of doing it. But here's the other part. Would Notre Dame allow it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because, dude, if you think about it, it's basically Notre Dame's conference. I mean, in so many ways.
Look, why are Stanford and Cal in the league?
Because of Notre Dame, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, so I think there's interesting kind of ways you look at the future and what all that could look like, but the ACC's future is directly attached to Notre Dame.
Yeah.
I mean, it's because without Notre Dame, so if I don't want to get like realignment stuff, but if you were to lose schools that you anticipate they could lose here in the near future, but you still have Notre Dame, at least you still have Notre Dame. Mm-hmm. But the moment you lose them as an anchor, then you really are just kind of at the mercy of whatever anybody else wants to go and take from you. Outside of like those schools that are going to be dedicated because they are ACC tried and true, and they don't want to budge and they don't want to do anything different or go play in frickin' Palo Alto, once a year or whatever. So yeah, I mean, they've got a really nice little spot where they have a lot of control, and they still get their things that they want out of it, like an independent football program. So yeah, I assume they'll satisfy Notre Dame and just do the simplest thing, which is probably just counting them in the standings. But it is a goofy arrangement. It really is.
Yep. And last thing before we go to Dave Wilson in the next segment, welcome aboard, Matt Rule, to the podcast world. Everybody has a podcast, and now House Rules is one. We're expected to have Matt on the show here soon.
Been hearing that for 6 months,
but I don't know. We'll see.
I know.
We'll get him on. We'll have him on again. I know. He says, I don't have to be politically correct. I can speak the truth because that's how we move the game forward. He never really has been, I don't think. I mean, he's always been kind of a straight shooter, at least in my estimation.
There's a segment of Baylor fans that would disagree,
Yeah.
that don't like Matt Rule still, even though he did a world of wonder at a very, very bad time for that program. And I can somewhat understand, like the people that you encounter, not everybody has the same experiences.
Yeah.
So some people who were working over there when he came on board didn't work out well for them, and they don't have a great opinion. And then for some other people, it worked out incredibly, and they're better off for it. And so it's just kind of one of those, like, depends on who you ask sort of a thing. But I feel like podcasts are sort of being weaponized, isn't the right word, but they're now being utilized as another extension of raising money and bringing more NIL in and bringing more attention in. And it wouldn't shock me, because if anything in college football, everybody's a follower at some point or another. Like, podcast studios and football facilities, let's do that too, right? Indoor walk-in rooms, like everybody eventually follows whatever the trendy or just cool things are. And I mean, Deion's been doing media stuff for forever and ever before his coaching career, but even during it. And I think that's provided a nice spotlight on the program and probably brought in sponsorships and things. And I don't know about how many other coaches do this, but I think this is going to be like kind of commonplace. Joey McGuire does one. I just watched it the other night when he was talking about Quentin Joyner. So he's got one that debuted, I want to say a few weeks ago, that he's doing on a regular basis now. So I'm sure Joey and Matt probably talked about this as close as they are. I would imagine they might have had a conversation about that. So I think he'll do well. If you're a Nebraska fan, I'm sure it'll get a great audience because they're so loyal, and so long as they're winning, then they'll tune in and be happy. But the moment you lose, like, that's when the podcast will get really interesting.
Here's the other thing I will say. He must feel really good about where they are as a team right now. Otherwise, this would wait another year.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, maybe so. Yeah, and he should, because it's year 3, and that's when he usually starts to see the turning point.
Stud 5-star quarterback in his second year.
Yeah, Dylan Raiola is a great prospect, and I think that he's got a lot of upside that we kind of already want to start making final grades on guys. But yeah, he was just a pup last year, and so he's grown up a little bit. We'll see how that turns out. Obviously got great skill, but man, it was cool to see. I mean, they got a lot to sell. It was cool going up to Lincoln last year and being a part of that whole scene, and you see like why Nebraska football is the brand that it is, and why the fan base is the way that it is. And he's a guy who I really respect and enjoyed when he was around here, and he's been kind to us, and so I'm rooting for him to do well. And I think the podcast ought to be great. I'm sure he's got a lot of opinions on things. Yeah. I know he would occasionally kind of talk like about TV or movies or things like that. So I think with all these coaches' podcasts, it would be kind of cool to maybe see them open up a little bit more. And I wonder how many follow suit. But like I said, I know Joey's got one that's fairly new. Now Matt Rule, and I'm sure there's plenty of others I'm not aware of, and I anticipate there will be more.
Look, I just wanted
a Dave Aranda podcast, though. There will not be a Dave Aranda podcast.
I want a Dave Aranda podcast on movies. That's what I want.
Yeah.
Not on football. Like he's too much of a tactician. Like there's too many. He'll start when he'll go interviews with us, and he starts talking about some of these terms, and I'm like, is that a new thing? I've never heard. Like,
did NASA just discover that recently?
Like, what are we talking about here? Like, you're way beyond. Now, if he wants to talk about the Wolf of Wall Street and stuff like that, I'm all, let's do that.
Man, I hated that for him, dude.
But
I felt like secondhand embarrassment for him with that whole situation. I mean, he's a really good dude, and I can only base that off of what I've seen and experienced. But I really like Dave Aranda. He's definitely not a podcast host type of guy. Yeah. I don't think he would want to devote his time in that way, but I can certainly see Matt Rule doing so. Joey McGuire, obviously, they've got much different personalities. So, yeah, I'm curious to see what other kind of personalities maybe we get more of a glimpse of. Like, I could see who did we just talk to yesterday? Purdue's coach, Barry Odom. I can see him having a podcast.
Yeah.
Like, I think there's probably dozens of coaches that would be pretty cool as podcasters. Yeah. So the more the merrier, and I think you still have to be somewhat politically correct, Matt. Yeah. I will disagree there. I don't think you can start just going, the libs and the right wing. I don't think you can start just going crazy. But, yeah, I think you can be a little bit more yourself and show that to the audience, and that'll be fun.
Yep. When we come back, Dave Wilson, ESPN.com. This is 365 Sports.
Allen Samuels House of Travel is a full-service travel agency with highly experienced travel consultants plus support staff with over a combined 150 years in the travel business. They are ready to take care of any travel situation for you, your family, and your business, and with the kind of knowledge to complete a seamless itinerary trip start to finish. They will search for the best deal to accommodate your budget from air to cars, ship to shore, hotel, and even meeting space. Name a destination and they've been there. They know the places to go, and international and missionary travel is one of their unique specialties. Allen Samuels House of Travel, celebrating 50 years in business. Call Connie, Sherry, Linda, or Bambi at 254-776-2560 or find them on Facebook or at houseoftravelwaco.com. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at alliancebanktexas.com. Member FDIC and equal housing lender.
Want to send a message to the show? Jump in the Rudy's Country Store and Barbecue chat room.
Dave Wilson, a fantastic writer. Dave, when I texted you before I finished reading your column today because I felt, even though I'm scrolling on my phone, mentally I was sitting like reading Sports Illustrated or the newspaper. It was written in that, old school form. It took me back, the style of writing. And this is how most of your columns do, but this one really did kind of take me back a little bit. It had a nice old school vibe to it.
Well, I'm generally kind of an old guy myself. I do tend to lean toward history and all the things that we romanticize about college football. I actually think there's a desire for a lot of that now because a lot of people don't like what college football is right now. And until we get it figured out, people like to reminisce a little bit.
Yeah, and you have a very personal connection in the story on ESPN.com. We Are What We Drive, how car dealers became and this is layered through 50 years or more of college. I mean, I'm pretty sure that John David Crow probably bought a car with that money they kicked out of the helicopter for him back in the day in 1954, whenever that was. But was it your dad or your grandfather?
My dad.
Your dad was in this world. How much did that, how much of that, sitting on that for all this time make you really want to put this down on paper and get it out?
I just always loved, every day when I got home from school, I'm from Kilgore in East Texas. Every day when I got home from school, I would go to sit in my dad's couch in his office. And, it's a Pontiac Buick GMC dealer in East Texas, which meant it was basically a GMC dealer. And, I would sit there and read automotive news, and I would go with him to conventions and meetings. And these guys were like larger than life characters to me. I mean, they're really not that different than coaches. I mean, there's one, they all have the same job. They all have the same product. It's a matter of which guy makes you feel, or which man or woman makes you feel the right way. And so, I just grew up. I know my dad grew up in a really small town, Cheapside, Texas, which is a ghost town now. His dad was an alcoholic, made him quit school to get a job. And the first guy that gave him a job was a car dealer in Victoria. And he just always felt like he owed it to everybody to give back because they had taken care of him. And I think, there's a lot of negative images of car dealers and about those things. And there are bad ones for sure. But I think a lot of them, they're very civic minded. They pay a lot of school taxes. They pay a lot of, they supply the cars for the parade, for the youth trips. And I think a lot of them feel very, very civic minded. And I don't know why that is. And so I just always thought, you watch NIL, you see all these things. And I'm like, people are like, how is this happening? I'm like, I know how it's happening because those guys all want their school to win. They want them to succeed. In the old days, they had to do it under the table, but now it's all legal. So that's why it's happening the way it is.
Yeah, I do. It's kind of like car dealers, attorneys, chiropractors, kind of like 98% of them all are just fine. But the ones that are crooked are so crooked that it casts this really, big net on oh, well, they all have to be like this because they're all like that. All chiropractors went to the university of Peru. No, it's not like that at all. But, and because this was so frowned upon, I'm sure every Big Red Motors and, all of that makes it look worse. But like you've described it, it's more of, we're Big Red Motors in Norman, Oklahoma. We're going to help the Oklahoma Sooners. We're right in, College Station, Texas. We're going to help the Aggies. That's how people felt about it.
Well, every town had those guys, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And especially in the Southwest Conference era when everybody it was all every man for himself. You knew who the Arkansas guy was, you knew who the Baylor guy was, you knew who the SMU guy was, and then the Aggies, the Longhorns, Tech, all that stuff. So everybody kind of had their go-to guy. I knew when I was growing up, there was a kid from around where we grew up that drove off to Arkansas in a really nice car, and his dad and the dealer happened to be one of the biggest Arkansas boosters there was. And so you always heard the stories and saw it. It was almost more fun then, when it wasn't on the Facebook page of the dealer saying, here's my new Corvette. Because my question to all these guys was, why do you want, as great a kid as Bijan Robinson is, I would see him in Austin in his Lamborghini. And I'm like, do you really want your first round draft pick running back driving a Lamborghini? We were all teenagers once. That's a pretty tempting thing. So I think that's part of the shock value is that Carson Beck had 2 Lamborghinis stolen from his house, that it's shocking, but it's the reality of the situation. And so I was really surprised, honestly, when I call up Christopher Late, who said he's had 27 Texas players on NIL, and he just said, it's like, oh yeah, here's how it works. Here's how I do it. There's no hang up the phone. I'm not talking to you about this. No, we want to be known as the guy that delivers for the Longhorns.
Here's what I was told when I was at FSU, how they used to do it was they would sign a lease because if I lease you, if I'm the car dealer and it's my car, it's my inventory, I can lease you a car for however much a month I've decided is fair for our business and you. There are the standard lease rates that come down from the company, but if I wanted to lease you one for $20 a month, it's within my right to do so. And right. Then I can just call back the lease at any time I want to. So I can give Peter Warwick a solid gold Escalade for $20 a month. And, it's legal, and then I can give another one to somebody else who has nothing to do with FSU football to see, I just do this for people that need it, if it ever got called a question.
Obviously, we all talk about, Dickerson's Trans Am. Eric Dickerson's Trans Am was the most famous car in college football history. everyone knew what happened to that. Everyone knew the Aggies bought it for him, and he drove it to SMU. And that's what people loved about it. It was a classic Southwest Conference story. And there was nothing anybody could do about it. The car was in his grandmother's name. He said his grandmother bought it for him. There was no evidence to the contrary, but now he tells that story. But that was how it worked, and it's really no different than it works now. Guys, the collective might buy the car and they title in the kid's name so that the kid has to pay insurance, or other people may have different deals where they loan them a demo, or what they call a demo. They get to drive it and then return it, and they sell it, and the insurance is part of the dealership package. So there's different ways that people do it, but I think it's really identical to the old school way that we all would whisper about or hear about.
So just briefly, because I want people to read this, but my favorite part of this is your the story of W.O. Bankston. Tell us about W.O.
So W.O. was a legendary figure in Dallas. He was he came to Dallas on a rail car. Yeah, I think he had 18 cents to his name when he arrived in Dallas, and he befriended the sheriff. I think he got arrested or something for not having any money and being transient. And then he befriended the sheriff, and somehow he started making his way, and he ends up having some jobs and making some money, and he buys a dealership in the 30s. And he just was a guy who did things his own way. He literally hired an escaped convict from Alcatraz, who was one of Bonnie and Clyde's contemporaries, to be his night watchman at his dealership, and then got a senator buddy named Lyndon B. Johnson to help pardon him. And W.O. just believed in doing things his way, and he thought if it wasn't fair, then he was going to take care of it. And one of those deals was SMU football players he thought deserved better. And so he had Nissan in the 80s when the 240Z or cars like that, maybe that was still Datsun, were popular. They were all the rage, like I said in the story, akin to like the Dodge Charger now. Every college football player seems to drive a Dodge Charger. And so the president of the guy who ran the Texas Automobile Dealers Association for 40 years said, if you went to SMU's parking lot, it looked like WO's front line. And so it was just a matter of like, look, these kids deserve it. They're playing for us. We're all in the stands watching them. It's all the stuff that became NIL, but WO was already on that train a long time ago.
So your dad, where does he fit in the NIL before NIL car business?
So I could never get him to give a car to Adrian Peterson when he was 60 miles down the road. No, he was like I said, he didn't go to college. He was really poor. I got him to take me to some A&M Arkansas. I remember taking him to an A&M Arkansas game in '89, and he loved Kyle Field, and he fell in love with the Aggies, and he's a small town guy. He loved R.C. Slocum, and he loved the Aggies. So he joined the Aggie Wheels team, where he donated loaned a car for a coach to drive, like on recruiting trips. Mm-hmm. And in return, he got like 50-yard line tickets. He got to go on a road trip with the team every year, one game a year. He would go on a band trip every once in a while. He loved the Aggie band. My dad was like just a character like all these guys. He somehow collected friends, and like the Aggie band director was a pallbearer at his funeral, even though he never even went to A&M or had anything to do with it. But he loved being a part of it. He loved and it really didn't cost him anything. He would loan a car. They would drive it for like 10,000 miles. Somebody would bring it back. They would sell it. He got what's called a demo allowance from General Motors for having it on the road. There were certain models that they just wanted on the road. And it would come home, and the trunk would be full of, track suits and T-shirts and all kinds of swag. And so he thought it was the coolest thing ever that he got all these perks for something that really didn't cost him anything. And it worked. It worked for both. I called RC during the writing of this story and just said, hey, how did that work? And he said it was a big deal. It was like a coach getting a, $500 a month raise essentially, and not having to worry about maintenance or anything. So it just made sense for a lot of reasons. And it was a lot more innocent in that regard when you're dealing with the school and not the players.
Yeah. I I drove I've driven a couple from one of our sponsors, Alan Samuels, a couple of program cars that they were like, oh, well, we gave this one to Scott Drew or Kim Mulkey or, Matt Rule when they were driving around, and, my car's in the shop, and then I've gotten to drive it, and then we talk about it on the air. I've ridden in a couple of those. I've taken a spin on a couple of those program cars. Back to Eric Dickerson is the most famous one of this.
Yeah.
And my favorite part about that story is that the people who gave him the car initially said, well, we've got to report them. And then somebody was like, well, how do we do that? They're not cheating fairly. Is that what you want to say? Like, hey, we got to this kid first and we cheated first, so he should be going here. That is so it's just wild to think about when you look back on that era.
Yeah. It's like it's like a drug dealer calling the cops on somebody that didn't pay them for their drugs or something. So it was like it was like a situation that it was a no-win if you're the guy that paid for the car and then he drove it to, he said it was a guy named Clarence Shear, who was a rice farmer in Sealy. Phil Bennett actually knew him. Phil Bennett and I have talked about this. Phil Bennett was outside Eric's house the night before signing day with a lot of the other Aggie coaches, and they all knew the story. It was just a matter of, there's nothing they could do about it when Eric changed his mind. And they couldn't go tell on him for taking their car to SMU, or else, they were the ones that were going to get in trouble. So, Eric kind of was the trendsetter there. And it was, all these years later, the one thing that always bothered me, though, is I always want to know, everyone talked about the Trans Am. There were pictures of it. There were, it was like a paparazzi thing. And then it just vanished. And I never heard about it. So that was one of the joys for me for this, was that Eric actually told me what happened to the Trans Am, and that's at the end of the story, which I don't think I've ever heard or seen reported before. So that was a cool little thing for me as a total child of the Southwest Conference and a nerd about this stuff. My little part of history there.
Well, there's the nice tease to leave that there. I think I was at SMU FSU last year, and they had two people in cars come out before the game. One was Eric Dickerson, the other was President Bush and Laura Bush, and they came out, and I think that SMU missed the boat on their ACC entrance. They had just had him in a regular, convertible sedan. They should have had him in a Trans Am.
Now they did that. They actually did that the year before, I believe. They started trotting out videos of Dickerson in a gold Trans Am, sort of when they were getting the band back together and all the oilmen were coming together to get serious about SMU coming back. And that was sort of the image of hey, we're back. We got we have the attitude back and the swagger back, because that was really the thing with SMU, was they had the people and they had the money. There was just not a lot of desire when they were playing teams that they didn't care about playing, like East Carolina and Navy and people like that. So once they knew they had an opportunity, that the guys jumped back in the boat pretty quick.
Yeah. Well, Dave, thanks so much for hopping on. I always love your stuff. I particularly enjoyed this one. It was really different and nostalgic, and just job well done. So happy you could come on the show and talk about it. I'm gonna have Andrew put the link to the story in the description and everything, and put it out on social media as well to help push it, because it's really, really good. So Dave, certainly appreciate it. Hey, the season's here tomorrow.
Right.
That's right.
In Ireland. Who knew?
Who you got?
Probably K-State. I mean, it's actually a really good sneaky game. I mean, that's obviously the Big 12. I think 10 teams could win the league. So this will be our first, because the Iowa State was really good last year, and Kansas State maybe underachieved a little bit, but they think Avery Johnson's going to be really good. So I don't know. I think it's a fascinating one. The whole year is going to be fascinating in the Big 12.
Absolutely. Dave Wilson, ESPN.com. Dave, I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Dave Wilson, ESPN.com. Yeah. Craig, I know you didn't get a chance to read the article before the show, but you'll love it. It's really good, very interesting, very deep.
Yeah, I didn't want to just randomly interject questions that had no knowledge, right? So, yeah, I didn't get a chance to read it, but I will. Dave Wilson does a really great job with all of his articles, and really enjoy when we get to run into him at certain events like media days and things like that. A really nice dude. And, sounds like it was a really cool article and well worth a read. So definitely encourage everybody to go check it out.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I will this weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. When we come back, we're going to go through and try to figure out our own, at least for Oklahoma and maybe A&M and a couple others, who we think that their protected rival should be in the SEC. And kind of go through, I've got a couple of things on this to think about for the SEC, and the change. That's next. This is 365 Sports.
Automatic Chef is your local vending, office coffee, and micro market provider, delivering outstanding service to break rooms all over Central Texas for over 50 years. Automatic Chef brings the best products to your location at the best prices. With hundreds of choices in fresh food, coffee, snacks, and drinks, let Automatic Chef tailor a break room solution to your needs. Make break time great again with Automatic Chef. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchef.com.
Baylor alumni are more than 160,000 strong. When we all join hands to support our university, we don't just move the needle, we move mountains. Working together, we create life-changing opportunities for students on the field, in the classroom, in the laboratory, and in life for generations to come. So get connected, get involved. Learn how at baylor.edu/alumni.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Penny Clinic Men's Healthcare in Woodway is now proud to offer you men an exceptional weight management body sculpting product called semaglutide, also known as Ozempic or Wegovy. Semaglutide is an FDA-approved weight management medication. Once-a-week injections of this powerful medication offers an average body fat weight loss of 20% within the first year of treatment. In addition to body sculpting, semaglutide also normalizes blood sugars and has the clinical research proof of reducing blood pressure, cholesterol, stroke, and heart attack risk. If you're like most men and you have stubborn fat that will just not respond to typical diets and exercise, then help is finally here. Semaglutide, affordable, highly effective. Google search Penny Clinic Waco and reach out to the Penny Clinic team today for a free consultation with Dr. Petty to see if semaglutide is right for you. Go to pennycliniclowt.com.
This is 365 Sports. Enjoying the show? Hit the like button and subscribe.
Welcome back, 365 Sports. And, I wanted to talk at least, have a segment of just us kind of discussing that, and then we'll make some picks before Josh Neighbors at 5:20. That'll essentially kind of wrap up the show into the top 5. But just a couple of notes here from Graham Coffey of Dog Central.
Looks like more than a couple.
Well, I'm
looks like my book report.
Yeah. Let's see. So a motion to expand to 9 failed this summer by 1 vote because they were unhappy about their permanent rivals.
Which is kind of what
what
Pat
Smith, Pat Smith said. They want different permanent rivals and all of that. The motion passing one day after the CFP decided to implement a strength of schedule metric makes it feel likely that it had a factor, but it remains to be seen if changes were made to the 3 permanent rivals. Each program was assigned to the original proposal, which we showed you from Pat Smith earlier. And then Auburn and Florida will probably be Georgia's, and he's just a Georgia writer. And then our friend Dave Bartu, who put this out there. So those are just some maybe backstory facts there. But he is the numbers guy. I mean, College Football Matrix. And he says this: the SEC will have the top 16 strength of schedule rankings in 2026. Strength of schedule is not correlated with the quality of the team. Strength of schedule in college football can be easily manipulated to get a desired result with so few non-con games, especially, again, you've got 9 conference games all over the board now. So, again, you're not going to have as many non-con games. And he says that strength of schedule should only be used to separate rankings of teams when all else is equal. And that last part, Craig, is what we don't know about the schedule metrics. We just know that they have a new factor in them. We don't know where that comes in the process.
I think it was a day to celebrate yesterday because of them going to 9 games, but I also think made it very clear from my standpoint, and maybe even a little bit earlier today, I don't recall, but it remains to be seen like what this actually looks like in practice. And there should be some level of concern that the SEC went through with this because they got what they wanted. Kudos to them for the business dealings and work there, but do they get the benefit of the doubt, and do these metrics over the top favor them? Are we going to see 4-loss South Carolina getting pushed ahead of like 2-loss Oklahoma State because strength of schedule, right? I worry about that. And you can massage numbers to say what you want them to say in a lot of cases. So I am leery. I think that I'd rather have, for college football's sake, I think it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't. If you're not somebody that's in the SEC or the Big Ten anyways, you're just kind of at the mercy of a lot of this, although the Your Marks of the world can try to do what they can do. I do think, as much as I've kind of goofed on his sort of art of war style, I guess, approach to college football, I've not always seen eye to eye with Greg Sankey, but I think I could have a beer with him and a much better conversation than with Tony Petitti. And I don't think Tony Petitti, even if he is not an art of war guy, necessarily has a better interest in mind for college football than Greg Sankey does. But having said that, I do think that, you have to be leery that he got what he wanted, and that's going to include them getting the numbers massage in their favor because the metrics they're going to use are going to automatically favor them from the jump. And so how does that all work in the end? And are we going to be sitting here a year from now bitching about how 8 SEC teams got in because of the strength of schedule metric, put a 3-loss team over a 1-loss BYU or something like that? I mean, that all remains to be seen, so probably shouldn't worry too much about it right now, but you do have to at least think about it, because I'm not going to blindly just go along and just be like, all right, cool, this is all be fair and even and equal and, measured equally. No, I don't know that it will be. I do agree with him that it should not be like the driving force and let's rank playoff teams based on strength of schedule. No, it should be like, hey, here's Auburn and here's BYU. And BYU's technically got a better record. If it's by 1 game, then maybe strength of schedule comes into play there, and then that would be an effective way to use it. But I don't think it should be one of the driving forces because that's rigged. That's just automatically rigged from the very jump because they already have the top 16. So again, it will be how they actually put it in practice, but there is a little bit of concern as much as you're like, hell yeah, 9 SEC games and everybody's equal, but how are they going to use this to their advantage?
But so if it comes down to 9-3 Auburn versus 10-2 BYU.
Yes.
The only reason I think that Auburn should get in 9-3 if BYU's non-conference schedule is so egregiously weak that you're like, well, yeah, of course they went 10-2. They did that. Auburn, they've got 10 games against Power 4 opponents, as where if you said BYU, which they're probably a bad example because they always play somebody.
Schedule tough, yeah.
But if they had a year where, they play their 9 conference games and their other 3 are not Power opponents. They don't play them and they're just there, I guess the better metric this year would be Texas Tech. They don't have.
Yeah, because Oregon State doesn't count because BYU actually plays Stanford. So
so Texas Tech, if you have Texas Tech's non-conference schedule this year that is weaker than most, then then and they're up against it, then you have that maybe like, all right, well, yeah, this team's set up to go 10-2 to try to game the system. You know, and maybe you leave them out that way, I guess. But even still, like, it remains to be seen, like, where do you start on the process? Is it one of the last things you do? Like when you like get down to this of like, oh, now there's 3 9-3 teams that are all getting in. Like everything else is pretty equal. Who played the toughest schedule? Okay, Auburn did. Auburn's going in. These other two, sorry about you. You know, you didn't have the toughest schedule. That to me is what would make sense. Not like, well, the SEC starts out on top because their strength of schedule is tougher. Like that to me, yeah, because like he said, it doesn't necessarily determine the quality of your team.
No, it doesn't. Like, okay, you played hard teams. That doesn't mean you're a good team. But if you played a really hard schedule and you finish 8-4, you can spin that a certain direction. Again, I think it'll come down to what were your 4 losses, though. But then that gets into, okay, well, if you lost to the bad teams, well, then that means you beat the good teams. So then that's why I don't really want to, because now I'm starting to feel like we're in January or December, and we're now having to sort out playoff teams, and we're just getting the season started. So I don't really want to get into that mode. But yeah, there's plenty of those questions that are remaining on how this will actually be influential in the overall discussion. Where does it come into play? Why does it come into play at that point? And what does it ultimately help decide? But it should not be the end-all, be-all of like, oh, strength of schedule trumps everything. It trumps record. It trumps quality wins. It trumps bad losses. It should be used, to his point, when, hey, you each have quality wins. You're like basically the same record-wise or maybe one game difference. You both have like one bad loss apiece. Like there's no separating you guys. What can we? Oh, strength of schedule. Okay, then bam. Then it comes into play, and that will always, in this instance, work in the SEC's favor. So you can see why they love it, because they got the top 16 before they've even played a game.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's something that's definitely a nice little card in their pocket when they're going to be on the outside looking in. But that's if it is just like thrown out as the trump card every single time. And it shouldn't be, because there is more nuance to it than just you played a tough schedule, so you're a better team than this team that played a lesser schedule. That's not always true.
Yeah, absolutely. Plus, you need to figure out how do you grade, like, what are the actual metrics of the strength of schedule? Because like when you started the season and it's strong, it's not necessarily strong at the end of the season. You know.
Yeah, I mean, there's been articles written about what all they take into account to try and come up with the best ways to do that. I don't know how in depth it's ever gotten, but I've read like Shahan, I know, has written about the exercises they went through when they were doing the mock committee stuff, and I'm not sure what all that entails, but it'd be nice to just have transparency. That's the thing. I don't want to see some like super ESPN Plus formula. Suddenly we find out baked into this decision, and we're like, well, what is that formula? It's a super ESPN Plus formula. Just no, we need to have, okay, well, tell us what that is. We don't want to, well, why would you not want to show us what is in that formula? Oh, it's proprietary, or, no, we need to. So I'm just all about transparency. If that transparency and that formula works in the favor of Alabama, then so damn be it. But don't let it be just like, oh, it's Bama versus BYU, everything's equal. Or excuse me, Bama and BYU, and before you have the conversation about all the things that are equal, you immediately jump to strength of schedule, and that's going to be BS, and that's not the way that it needs to work.
Yeah. A couple quick things here. From Brett McMurphy, so much for Curt Cignetti's SEC scheduling philosophy. In 2026, SEC teams required to schedule at least one non-power league game. Yeah, Curt Cignetti came out like, hey, the SEC doesn't do it. He said, like, why should we at Indiana? And they very famously have a very weak non-conference schedule at Indiana.
Yeah, they do. They're canceling games, and they were, I guess, preparing for a different future. They canceled
a game against Virginia.
Yeah, they canceled a game against Virginia, so that was a Power 5 they did have there. But yeah, he's a guy who I think people who want to see somebody poke back at the SEC, they love, because he's willing to do that, and he's not worried about, oh, fuck, I need a job there later on down the line. Yeah. I better not offend anybody or whatever. Like, I mean, and plus it's college. Like, if you're a good enough football coach, somebody's going to hire you, no matter where you are. But, there's also the part where it's like, man, you're puffing your chest out for a lot for a guy who's not Michigan or Ohio State or any of the teams you're barking at either. I mean, so he's a divisive guy, but I think he's good for college football in that you need people like him to kind of churn the waters a little bit and to give some personality and some eccentricity to just the face and line of head coaches. It's cool to have characters. He's certainly a character, but yeah, he doesn't have the same argument to stand on now that he did before of like, oh, well, we're just going to schedule like the SEC philosophy. Well, not now. Now, I mean, granted, you've already been playing 9 conference games, and that's a big bitch of his as well. But the whole, well, we're just going to throw 3 non-cons like they're just the co-ed team shows up and plays in week 2. No, the SEC's had a chess move now where it's like, oh, we're doing what you're doing and we're doing more with it. We're not going to duck teams in the non-con to preserve our little cute record for playoff discussion. We're going to still go play Florida State, and we're going to play Oklahoma. Well, we'll see on Oklahoma. But ideally, you'd play games like that. Obviously, South Carolina, Clemson, you do play. Georgia Tech, you do play, so on and so forth. So, yeah, they're taking it a step further, and, yeah, that argument doesn't have as much to stand on. So now Indiana needs to go out and play your Big Ten schedule, but now you need to have somebody with pulse. Like you need to have a team that's a Power 5 team with a pulse. I think that would go a long way in just everybody being on the same page that had the same sort of rules. But when you're playing Old Dominion, Kennesaw State, and Indiana State, like you don't have a leg to stand on as far as an argument now at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. And then from Chris Lowe, he said, let's not forget that each of the last 2 national champs, Ohio State and Michigan, didn't play a single non-conference game against a Power 4 foe. Now, both of those will change this year. Ohio State's playing Texas, Michigan's playing Oklahoma, and Michigan played Texas a year ago.
Arguably, the 2 best rivalries in the sport, depending on where you live and how you grew up, playing crossover ball with Ohio State, Michigan, and Oklahoma,
swapping wives.
Yeah. Game swap or rival swap is what we're getting coming up here pretty soon. So, yeah, that's a worthy note. But I mean, Ohio State's played a lot of big. I think that's just a coincidence.
I mean, like last year, them doing it, it's probably that one's more of a coincidence. Same as Michigan. Michigan usually plays. They played Alabama before in the non-con, but it did work out for them the last 2 years that they didn't. That they got to kind of roll in.
I mean,
Michigan got to steamroll into their schedule.
Yeah, would it have knocked them out of the playoff? Playing a team, probably not, right?
And if you go back,
and look, that doesn't have to be Alabama. That could be like Virginia Tech or something, it could be TCU. It could be literally anybody in the Power 4. So that doesn't mean it's just some badass game, regardless.
Now, Ohio State.
Not that I'm knocking TCU. I was just throwing names out there.
Ohio State last year had a bit of a different road because they had games kind of sprinkled throughout their schedule. Michigan had the biggest we can build up to the last 3 games on our schedule that are the toughest you would ever see, because they had no non-cons, and then all of their easy Big Ten teams they were a dominant team anyway who was stealing signals, so they had an advantage. But
allegedly.
So they just were able to roll through, and just by the time they got to Ohio State, they would already puff their chest out so much of this team's just on a roll. Schedule-wise, they weren't even threatened until that game.
Yeah, I mean, they coasted. Looking back on that year, they played ECU, UNLV, and Bowling Green. Yeah. And then, they didn't play a ranked team until November 11th when they finally played Penn State. And then they played, to be fair, they played 3 top 25 teams in the last month of the season, including Iowa, Ohio State, and Penn State, and beat Iowa, obviously, for the Big Ten title. But those are their first 3 ranked games. And then, the thing about that, though, is then you still go to the playoff and you have to beat really good teams to go win the title. So I think by the end, they were proven and measured, and you could buy, if you take the whole, whatever your feelings are about that guy whose name I'm not even going to mention anymore, and his whole orchestrated weird, it's almost like you could make a movie off that guy, like Weird Fan or something like that, right? But by the end of it, they had beaten 5 top 25 or 5 top 15 teams in like their last 6 games and had beaten, I think it was like 4 or 3 out of the last 4 games were top 5 opponents. So you were still proven by the end of it. But yeah, they did not play a Power 5 that year, or a Power 4, that year. I think another interesting point that I saw someone bring up was, and I'm sure this will be probably part of somebody's playoff argument, like when Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss are trying to get that 16th playoff spot, they're going to bring this up, or somebody will eventually. But this could also backfire in a way of a lot of bowl teams that are not bowl teams all of a sudden. Like Arkansas is not getting that 6th win because now they're playing an extra game that's a little bit tougher. So does that happen? But then also, and this is what I think will really be hammered home in certain situations, is you already heard it when there was only 8 games. Now imagine with 9, of the brutality of the SEC schedule. Mm-hmm. And if that's actually real, if there is something to that, then you're going to have some teams that are pretty beat up by the end of the season because now they have this extra game. Now, it could be the worst team in the league for whoever draws it, but it could be Alabama that you're playing that suddenly you wouldn't have been otherwise. So it could have some negative effects, but that's why you also try to bake in the strength of schedule thing. So no matter how beat up you are, everything's got an excuse built into it, right? Well, we're playing 9. It's harder than everybody else's 12. And so I anticipate those arguments when people are trying to grab what they need to grab. But it's I mean, that's a worthy note, but I still think those teams are pretty damn good, and ultimately they were proven by the end of the whole thing.
So,
a super chat.
Yeah, we do have a super chat from Justin R. I mean, at this point, let's just copy basketball and measure games using the quad system. Maybe create 8 quads to measure every FBS team. Go Bulls!
Go Bulls!
Yeah,
go Bulls, Justin.
My apologies to all the UCF fans who are going to get really mad. They hate each other.
Yeah, they do, but we got respect for both. We got love for both. So shout out to the Bulls and the Knights.
I used to sneak in and work at their gym with a friend of mine.
Oh, really?
Who was a student there.
Very nice. Well, to your point, thank you for the super chat, by the way. We really appreciate that. Appreciate you watching the show. Who knows? They might. I mean, I think it's going to be very convoluted, and I think that's why we're all kind of talking some of these things out, and how it will all work is you'll probably have somebody that puts together some type of situation like that'll make it all a little bit more clear cut and black and white and easier to kind of, I guess, decide and measure all of these different facets that now are going to be a part of the arguments of. Before we didn't have the same number of conference games. We're like, our 8 is more than your 9 and all this kind of stuff. But now that everybody's at 9, that's a nice starting point. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, I feel like nothing should be off the table as far as, can this make it better? Can this make it easier? Then let's pursue that. And maybe there is something the way they do basketball where quality wins are measured by the quad and all of that. So that at the end of the year you have like, well, they have this many quad 1 wins and they have this many quad 2 wins. And yeah, it may not be exactly like that, but there'll probably be something like that cooked up. And if not officially, you can best believe there will be a couple of Twitter accounts that have like some formula sooner rather than later that will be able to show you, like Kelly Ford or CFB Matrix, or somebody will have some system if they don't already.
Yeah, I know that Dave, you can take that down now, Brandon, but that Dave Bartu has at CFB Matrix, he asked a bunch of SEC reporters like what they thought their 3 would be the schedule, and he has that. You can go to his Substack and get it if you want, based on his research and the numbers he ran. So, Craig, you're an Oklahoma fan. Who do you want your 3 protected to be? Texas and who else?
Texas for sure has to be on there. Obviously, I wanted to find who they had on because Missouri. Duh, obviously Missouri. They have to be on there. But I'd actually pulled up yesterday when I was thinking about this Oklahoma's records versus the rest of the SEC. Now, this isn't considering, I don't believe, last year's results, and I don't have everything memorized off the top. I try to forget last year a little bit, even though it ultimately still was a team that got to the postseason and all of that. But Missouri's the second most obvious outside of Texas. They played Missouri a ton in their history. They played, I'm bad at math, but let's say 80, that's 91, like 97 times now at this point, which is far more than they played anybody else. So, yeah, they go back well over 100 and practically 125 years. So Missouri is the lock for that. And that last spot, I don't think that there's just naturally a given for everybody because your given might be 3 other teams given as well.
Yeah.
So I'd like to see like Arkansas would make a ton of sense. They're neighbors. They're right there next to each other. They don't necessarily have like the deep history, obviously, that Texas and Arkansas have. But they've played a good amount of times. They haven't played with regularity much as of late. But I do think my mind's probably geared more geographically once there's nothing else to really separate the rest of the teams because Texas and Missouri are so clearly the two. You could make a compelling argument for A&M should be one of them. I just don't think that most Oklahoma fans really view them as like some major rival, but they've played a lot more than they played a lot of these other SEC teams. So
I just don't think that it was like it moved the needle. Obviously, everybody enjoys.
There's a game that people like when they think of the rivalry, they think of one game. Basically, that kind of sums it all up, whether that's fair or not.
Yeah. I mean, and look, A&M had every different kind of embarrassing loss you could have against Oklahoma. They got that 77-0, whatever it was.
It was 77-0. You know it. You know that you know it.
Yeah, 77.
You know that I know that you know it.
Yeah, 77-0. But they also had a game that was
the last time they played in 2009, it was 65-10.
Yeah. See, so like there's not they have those. They also had one that Dennis Francione had Oklahoma dead to rights and forgot how to do math and lost the game like 17-16. Like I was there. It was the most maddening thing in the world. He down 4 with like 2.5, 3 minutes left, kicks a field goal to go down 1, assuming Oklahoma, who, by the way, knows that A&M doesn't have all 3 of their timeouts, just needs to get 1 first down to not give the ball back. And he was at like the 4-yard line too and didn't go for it. And then just lost by 1 point and was like, well, we thought we were going to get the ball back. Dude, you played Oklahoma.
Yeah, well, I mean, the Francione time is a time to forget in College Station for sure. And that I was incorrect on that. I thought the 65-10, they played 3 times, and A&M actually, A&M blew them out in the Cotton Bowl. That was with Manziel, right? In 2012. That was the last time they'd actually played. So A&M won 2 of the last 3. But yeah, there was a OU in 03, 77-0. OU in 99, 51-6, 66-28, 65-10. 42-14. I mean, there was some bludgeonings.
Look, OU in 2000, that was the game where that was maybe kind of like the team of destiny game revealed itself because
that was a close game.
It was really close. And A&M, again, could have kind of put the game away at different moments, but Oklahoma made plays that like ridiculous, crazy plays that you make when you're on a historic run like they were that year. You're absolutely right. So to answer your question, I just wanted to clear up and make sure I didn't get that fact wrong on the last time they had played. So A&M actually has that Cotton Bowl win as the last time they played. But I went and looked through all the teams that they played, and they've played Vanderbilt 3 times. They played Tennessee 4. They've never played South Carolina. They played Ole Miss once. They played Mississippi State never. LSU 3 times. Kentucky 3 times. Georgia once. That was the CFP. Yeah. Florida twice, Auburn twice. So Alabama 6 times. So there's not an obvious. So Arkansas geographically or A&M would make some sense, but I do think they might just be one of those teams where you just have to give them the random wild card. And I think this too, and I know we probably need to talk about Iowa State, K-State, but not every, like you're preserving tradition pretty damn well. You also can create new tradition as well. So how about, like, I would actually be more intrigued by Florida, Texas. But I know Texas has their 3 already, I guess, in mind. But something like that, like an Alabama or an Oklahoma, Alabama or an Oklahoma, Florida, because those other teams have their 3 already, that won't be feasible. But you're going to have to just put some teams together. And then who knows, maybe it becomes a damn rivalry because the games turn out really great. And if I'm picking A&Ms, it's LSU, Texas, and Arkansas. Right. Like, that's what I would pick for them. Again, may not be feasible because Arkansas probably has to be one of LSU's.
Well, what did he have on his little mock-up? Do you remember? Smith's?
On that one, it was A&M had Texas, Mississippi State and Arkansas. And then look, Mississippi State makes actually a little bit of sense there.
Yeah, it's ag school. That's fine.
Yeah. I mean, so it makes a little bit of sense there. Not going to hate on that. And the way they have it built up to where it's not going to go, Georgia A&M and be, 18 years between times that they visit each other and all that stuff. It's better. So yeah, that's what I would say there. And look, if I'm Florida, I want Georgia, LSU, and Tennessee. They're not going to get that. But and maybe they don't want it because those teams are all really good. But I'm a fan and say, like, these are the rivals I want every single year, Georgia, LSU, and Tennessee, because they played that schedule forever.
Yeah, I mean, there's probably some people, and there's some people that don't want those three because then it hurts their chances. So there's like that fan I mentioned earlier in the show who was already trying to wiggle out of like a rivalry because they're going to get hurt by it. So not a real tough fan or somebody who's like bring on the challenges, but like, how can we get the softest path possible? I don't know how much I respect that really, but I get it. Overall, I do get it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So yeah, for the answer for you is I think you're just gonna have to have a wild card like Florida. It doesn't make a lot of sense. There's not a lot of history, but there's not a lot of choices. So you're gonna have to kind of create some history and hope that it takes off in some way.
Yep. All right, let's talk Farmageddon before we get to Josh Neighbors. So Craig, I mean, this game, like coming down to picking it, it's really tough. Like I think it kind of comes down to me to which quarterback I feel better about at this point. And I like, even whenever I say it, I probably I feel pretty much the same about them both. I would love for either one of these guys, if I was the coach of a college football team, to be my quarterback. I'd be perfectly content with those two guys. Like, that would be great with Rocco Becht and with Avery Johnson. I'm going to go K-State here in a very, very, very close game that comes down to the end. And I don't feel great about it.
I think that there's nobody out there that can really feel 100% positive about this outcome. I don't care how much studying you've done. I don't care how many metrics that you've put together and read. I don't think that there's just some clear-cut answer here. So that's what makes it a hell of a lot of fun. And if there's a blowout, then I think that would be the most shocking outcome, and that would really rearrange some thoughts on whoever's on the receiving end of that blowout. I have this pull on me to pick Iowa State. I do. I keep reading about Avery Johnson and Dylan Edwards, and at the same time, I'm reading about Rocco Becht and Iowa State having healthy linebackers for the first time in over a year. And I think it's just kind of splitting hairs, man. I really do think you're sort of splitting hairs picking between these two teams. So I'm going Iowa State. I think the Chris Williams video put me over the top in favor of the Cyclones. I also called them as I guess when we had a little bit of a conversation, like our sleeper pick to win the Big 12 or to be in the title game, I mentioned Iowa State, and I almost felt like y'all's jaws dropped because it was just not the typical four teams that we kept hearing about, but also I guess because they lost a couple of really good receivers. But they got all the way to the title game last year without a fully healthy linebacking core, and Rocco Becht should only be better, and the replacement of two very, very good wide receivers I don't think is like the old college football way of like, well, we got to raise the freshmen up and we got to do that. It's like, no, you can address that like immediately, but also they're a program where they also do that though. They do farm grow and home grow, I guess is actually what I was trying to say. Those guys in Ames. So that's the kind of program that they have there. That's what makes them unique and very Iowa State. And so I'm a little bit less worried about, hey, can you find a couple guys to catch footballs and score touchdowns for you? I'm leaning to Iowa State in a close game. I think you can't go wrong picking either team here. There's just so much uncertainty. But, man, I'm expecting a fight in Dublin, inside and outside the stadium probably at some point. But these two programs are both rock solid, and this is a great way to start the college football season with Farmageddon, getting a place and a platform for the whole country to kind of take it in. I think it's going to be great.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun game. And look, they went on and got a couple of good transfer receivers.
That's what I mean. It's like,
they've got them, and I'm sure they've got some guys that nobody's ever heard of.
But it's even like with the quarterbacks nowadays. You go, oh, they got a young quarterback. So, I mean, if it's like some completely unranked, low 3-star, not that those are the end all be all, but If it's a guy that clearly is not ready to be a starting college quarterback and you're having to replace your guy who is proven with that type of guy, okay. But I think, even at quarterback nowadays, there's a lot of young players that come in and they're pretty damn good pretty quickly. So I just think in general, the transfer portal and only having to plug a few spots here and there, that there's not like this big dip when you lose a couple of really good receivers necessarily, or a couple of really good pieces in the secondary. There can be. I just don't think it's the end all be all like it used to feel back in the day when you're like, oh, we got to raise these young guys up. There's still some of that, but without that wide receiver question, with that clearly, I guess I'm explaining, doesn't mean much to me. I feel great about Iowa State. I feel really good about K-State, but I'm just going to edge. I'm going to give the edge to Iowa State in this matchup.
It's too tough a game to pick. I'm glad I'm not over here on the board, like trying to do it right now. I would, this is a coin flip.
It's a coin flip. Yeah,
total coin
definitely.
flip. Yeah.
I mean, I think the last time I saw K-State was like 3.5 point favorites, I believe. The last check-in, which was, I guess, for me earlier this morning. I don't know if that's flipped at all, but I think that's a sign this is going to be a close game. 3-point favorite, K-State. So yeah, they're the favorites, but I'll say I'll go the opposite and I'll go with the Cyclones.
All right, when we come back, Josh Neighbors, College Countdown Podcast. We'll talk about Farmagedon and a couple other things. This is 365 Sports.
In our logo and advertising, we say we are people that you can count on. What does that mean? It starts with providing a quality vehicle and quality service at a fair price. But it also means we do what we say we will do, and we treat people fairly with respect. It starts by hiring great people, good local folks who work hard with a caring attitude. Our employees are the real reason we are people that you can count on. Put us to the test and see for yourself that at Richard Carr Motors, we are people you can count on.
Parenting is full of surprises.
You never know what to expect.
So after our son was born, I called my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent to set up a life insurance policy in case something happened to me.
Sawyer is now 2.
And we'll soon have a sister. There's no one else I would trust with protecting my family.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Developed by Startup Waco, a nonprofit organization, GXG is a program designed to support the entrepreneurial development of Baylor University student athletes through NIL activations. The program helps student athletes maximize their platforms and offers a comprehensive support system for them to create and grow new businesses that not only benefit themselves, but also uplift the local economy. Fans who wish to support student athletes can donate to GXG via the GXG NIL Fund, BaylorBears.com/GXG. Contributions to support NIL activations through GXG can be made at BaylorBears.com/GXG. For more information, follow at GXG_GreenXGold on social media and visit the official website www.gxg.startupwaco.com. GXG, empowering student athlete entrepreneurship and uplifting the local economy through NIL activations.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine now has 2 locations to serve you. The original on Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street and the brand new spot in downtown Waco at 600 Franklin Avenue. If you're looking for the best in craft beers or local Texas bourbons, then the original is the place to be. And for the latest trends and online phenomenons, head downtown to the Franklin location. Either way, you're going to get the same great variety, customer service, and speedy experience. Check out both locations on their Facebook and Instagram pages, Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street, and now downtown on Franklin Avenue.
This is 365 Sports. Check out the 365 Sports family of channels on YouTube.
Sadly, we don't get to see the angelic face of Josh Neighbors today. Josh Neighbors, College Countdown podcast. He and is Jack your permanent co-host? Or is he?
Yeah, every Wednesday, Jack Allen joins me for some fun conversation, which we talked about Auburn. Do they suck? That was our big question this week.
Let's talk. Well, let's talk about that game in a minute. But first, we got to talk about there's 2 Big 12 games on Saturday. Kansas is playing in America. Kansas State and Iowa State are playing in Ireland. Let's start out with the big one, Farmagedon in Ireland. Hey, look, if you're going to pick a country, I'll say this. Historically, if you're going to pick a country that is agrarian and would understand the rivalry between two ag schools, I do think that Ireland is probably the place, right?
Yes. Oh, 100%. I mean, well known for famine, which the old ag folks at Kansas State, I don't think it help out with. Obviously very plush fields there in Ireland. Yeah, so this is a fitting backdrop. And we mentioned it before, too, like the Big 12. Brett Yormark, this is a game they wanted. People who don't know are like, why is this game happening here? It doesn't make much sense. But if you know college football, this is a good rivalry. It's a fun game. And this is a great showcase for the conference to start the year off, to have a nationally televised game on this stage, leading things off. And it's one of the Big 12's better rivalries. It's one of their better games, and two of the best programs and coaches in the league in the last 5 years. Yeah, it is. I mean, it is teams that are very similar in almost every regard. There's their philosophies, while their differences in execution are, big, strong running games, and the team is really centered more around the defense than it is the offense. Identity-wise, they're both coaches that came up, Matt Campbell from Mount Union, Chris Klieman from North Dakota State, that have this small Midwestern attitude. It is something I think we should do across all realms of rivalries in college football, is focus on and this is not to anybody who's involved in that rivalry, a second-tier rivalry, but as far as knowledge across the country, people don't know about some of these things, and they're awesome. There are some really awesome rivalries like this that we don't really get to talk about enough on the national basis, because we get so caught up in is it on the Michigan-Ohio State scale? And you're like, well, what could be? They're just massive, huge schools. Everything is a little bit different. Yeah, I mean, LSU A&M is a well-televised rivalry, and it's not a rivalry. Mm-hmm. It's this is Farmagedon is a better rivalry than LSU A&M. It's a better rivalry than a lot of games that take place in that final week of the season that you see sometimes. So, I mean, this is a legit rivalry. It's also a legit rivalry because these two schools, especially under their current administrations, if you will, coaching-wise, they fight and compete for championships often because of how well they are. I mean, we know Matt Campbell's phrase of five-star culture, but it is so true. The five-star culture is Rocco Beck replacing Hunter Deckers, because the gambling violation thing, and becoming this really strong player, good quarterback, and then going to the 12 championship game last year. It's the same thing. Obviously, for Kansas State. I mean, they won one under Chris Klieman. And obviously, when they build it, and they've got a star in Avery Johnson, we'll see how good he is, how good he can be. But these two schools, they do very much mimic each other, and in all the best ways, right? They produce a lot of NFL talent because the way they develop the players, and a lot of the NFL talent they develop has some kind of not crippling defect, but Deuce Vaughn is small, some of the wide receivers that Iowa State puts out are not the fastest guys in the world, right? But they just develop, and they've done a good job. The both of them have. So fired up, and also two awesome fan bases that travel really, really well. So I expect a really good environment tomorrow too. Yeah, I think it's going to be great. All right, so on the field for this game, Josh, who do you think comes out on top? Who is more ready for this thing? Who doesn't make the big mistake? I don't know. It's week 0, Paul. I don't know. I mean, last year went, probably the year before went in Ireland. Well, the Notre Dame game was standing. The Nebraska Northwestern game, total swing, momentum in that game. Just weird things can happen in these games. But I mean, I expect a pretty high level of execution, because I bet these coaches were demanding a lot in the fall camp period, because this is not just a critical game in the, in general. This game's going to have implications for the Big 12 title race, because both these teams have designs on going to the Big 12 championship game. They've got good rosters. They've got good quarterbacks, good coaches, obviously. And so this game could decide, which team is playing is it still in Dallas this year? I think it is. Yeah. Who's playing in Dallas for a spot in the college football playoff, and who's sitting at home, maybe at 10-2, 9-3, and not playing for a spot in the college football playoff. So certainly that's on the line. 3.5 feels like the right number. At 3.5, I would take Iowa State because I think this game's usually pretty tight. Week 0-ish makes you a little about it, skitsy about it, just because like that big mistake is more prone to happen. And if a big mistake happens, the spread's probably closer than 3.5. But these two teams feel pretty even on paper considering what they've got. So my lean is Iowa State plus 3.5. I think Kansas State wins the game though. I think it's like I wouldn't be surprised if we get a result much like last year's Georgia Tech game-winning field goal at the end.
Yeah, I think that I think it's going to be great. Like, what do we see from Avery Johnson year 3, right? Is he a quarterback now? Not that he wasn't, but has he come into his own? Chris Kleiman feels like he did. I asked him essentially that question at Big 12 Media Days. Is he a quarterback now? Because for the first couple years, like you just got this superb athlete playing quarterback.
Right.
Is he a quarterback who's now like, has he flipped the ratio? Is he a quarterback who's also an athlete?
Yeah, no, that's huge. And honestly, Paul, that's a great question for the season. Sometimes testing teams is like the best thing that you can do early on in the season is test people's ability to tackle in space and make those plays. And but the big question for their overall success and how far the team goes, is he maturing the way quarterbacks normally do, and has he become a quarterback? Now, at Kansas State, sometimes, with some years they got good quality receivers, but some years, you need to be the guy who's making plays and extending plays so guys have more time to get open. You know what I mean? When we're talking about extending plays, like it's not just because you're running away. It's because guys in your team need more time or not as physically gifted or whatever, something goes wrong for them, and they're running the routes. So does he have that ability to extend the plays, make the plays, and also can he run an efficient offense? Because at its peak, and I know they've switched coordinators, but at its peak, K-State's offense recently was the Will Howard one. But really, the function of that offense was to get the ball around the field, much like the Lions do. So they had so many guys at tight end and at running back, and then at wide receiver. I mean, they were able to spread the field, so they just needed a trigger man. Avery Johnson, this offense will be a bit more built around him, but can he be dynamic and also get the ball out at the same time? I'm excited to see that long term, but maybe he can just be the athlete tomorrow and still win. Okay, let's talk about Baylor and Auburn next week. I'm curious your thoughts on this game. You have strong feelings on Auburn, I see. We had Jason Campbell on the show on Wednesday. We asked him about the new national championships. Redskins legend?
Yes.
Redskins legend, Jason Campbell?
Yeah.
My guy.
Yeah. Jason Campbell's great. He was great on the show. He's the sideline reporter or color analyst. I can't remember which one he does. They're on their radio broadcast, but he's on the radio broadcast. And he said, look, because he's on the 2004 team, he very much feels, and I think that team legitimately – they're one of the teams that because of them, we have the playoff now because it made no sense from every metric that you could think of audience. Like, wouldn't you have loved to see that Auburn team play either USC or Oklahoma? Like, yeah, I would have loved it. Like, all those things, like you just go on down the list, like, just made no sense. So that was like one of the first ones that kind of started to tick down to like, there should be more than two teams that get in this deal. So I understand like 2004. They have several others that they put on when they're on probation and didn't get to play in bowl games against teams from out of their conference, which is bogus. And then they had a bunch of others they threw on there that were like, Josh Neighbors, college football magazine poll. Like, okay, if I could just name it.
That's a good poll.
Yeah, but you can't just, to me, it's like, that's why I never understand cults, because like if you can like look at the guy and be like, oh, who's the head of this cult or who's started this religion? You're like, oh, Frank. And you're like, well, no, I need some lore in my religion. I don't need this guy. So
Frank.
Yeah, I don't need just Frank. Like he's a 2-bedroom apartment. I'm not following him. Like, what are we talking about? So, but What do you think about Auburn this year? Do you think that Hugh Freeze can make that turn? They've been 5-7 his first 2 years, and outside of Cam Coleman looking good at the end of last year, I mean, I don't see anything that he's injected into the system that makes me think that they're going to take a massive step forward this year from 5-7 to 9-3 or 10-2. Like, I would say that like they might take a step forward to 7-5, but that's not why he's one of the highest paid coaches in the country.
Yeah, they've been building for this year too. So like, does 8-4 like do the job? And also, man, it's been horse manure what they've done at the quarterback spot. Like, I was told this guy was offensively inclined, and he keeps bringing in scrubs. Like, we knew Peyton Thorne who he was, and it's like, oh, like, are we shocked he got benched last year? No, I've watched him for years. What are we doing? And then Jackson Arnold last seen just really, I mean, not having a good year at Oklahoma, which is fine because he's young, and he brings him in. And now we see a video of them fighting on the sideline, and he's talking about, oh, everybody's available. So it didn't go great the last 2 years. The indications are things aren't great this year. And for this guy who's some offensive innovator, like, and also he brought in a lot of talent at Ole Miss, but they're not like uniquely talented at Auburn. They've got good talent. They've got some good players coming to the program, but their defense should be really good too. But their offense, which is his calling card, doesn't look very good. So like, if the first 2 years are any indication of how this is going, and like your ideas, things are going to change materially in year 3, what's telling us from like the way he's treating camp and whatnot that things are changing? I mean, maybe I'm wrong here. Maybe they do well. It's totally possible because they have talent, but it doesn't seem good. I mean, is there any team that's got more on the line week number 1 than Auburn?
I mean, no, I think that look, this is a huge thing for Baylor themselves. They like, Josh, they've never brought in a non-conference opponent like this since I've been here. Never.
Yeah.
Never. It's a huge deal that an SEC team, and one that's won apparently 9 national titles.
I'm not sure that. Yeah, I mean, but if you checked the list of national champions last week and you checked it again this week, it would have been drastically different.
They added
right?
They added 7.
I think they were saying, don't ignore our 3 quarterbacks. Pay attention to our 7 championships here.
So you're talking about they added 9 champions. They've got 9 champions, but at least, a team that's won the national championship that has a lot of lore to it. It's a big deal for Baylor to come in, to host a team like this and to win the game. For Auburn, it's really big because if you lose it, you're already behind the 8 ball nationally of what people will think of you. And you could expose the fact that Hugh Freeze maybe hasn't quite got his hooks into the team like you would hope if you're an Auburn fan.
Yeah, in year 3 too.
Yeah,
I mean but like Dave Aranda, it's Dave Aranda's chance, man, to make a pretty big statement. I mean, what year is this for Aranda now? 5, 6?
Yeah, something like that.
I mean, this is a great opportunity for them at home, and a guy at quarterback. I mean, they've got a quarterback who played really well last year that people are buying into, and I think they've pretty good indication that he's going to keep playing well. So this is an excellent opportunity for Baylor. I mean, I like them in this game. I bet them in this game. And I'm nervous for that on offense.
Yeah, I actually, I'm going to pick, like, unless something happens between now and next Friday, I'm picking Baylor to win this game. I've seen nothing from Auburn. Look, they went and got Eric Singleton, a really good wide receiver, to go along with Cam Coleman. They have really good players. Their defense should be all right. But I just can't see it until I see it, Josh, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I'm with you because it's, I mean, like, Hugh Freeze is tossing guys out that had no business playing quarterback last year. And so if that's his calling card, and we see him fighting with Jackson Arnold in practice, like, it's not unfair to ask if these guys if he's maybe lost his fastball in the quarterback department, like his fastball. So I'm interested to see that whole thing play out. But I'm surprised the best guy they can get in there, they've got Ashton Daniels as the backup, and then Deuce might end up being good if he's young right now. And then you got Jackson Arnold, who's you can't really call him a 5-star anymore because the way he played last year.
Yeah, no, Jackson Arnold has a shot like everybody does, but most of the time when guys like that transfer and it's not and it's not just for like a coaching change or whatever. It's just not good. It's not, it just winds up being like, okay, this is what Jackson Arnold is. Like I can point to the long line of all the 4 and 5 star quarterbacks that have transferred out of Georgia, right?
How's that going?
Yeah. Like, are we writing about like, oh man, Brock Vandegrift, he just needed to get an opportunity, right? I mean, he was just blocked because it's Georgia. Well, no, I mean, he was just kind of okay, right? I mean, he was just
right.
He was just that. So Kansas also kicks off Saturday. This is a very interesting time for them. They're back in their stadium, which is almost done. They'll have to go and finish the other side, but they have these new amenities. They're going to be building all this cool stuff around it. There's legitimate excitement. There's a whole bunch of money into the program now from David Booth. And this kicks off the season on Saturday. Jalen Daniels is healthy. He's practiced all the time going in. He hasn't missed any time. There should be nothing standing in Kansas's way to at least be in contention for this thing, right? At least until the early part of November.
Yeah, I think maybe what they missed, and I think maybe we've all missed the boat on this one. Andy Kotelnicki he's got it, man. Mm-hmm. Like whatever it is, when it comes to dialing it up, this guy still is a mastermind. I mean, Penn State, had a really good chance of beating Notre Dame and had no yards from receivers. The fact that you had a game plan that didn't actually need that to happen. I know it wasn't like they're scoring a ton, but like that could happen. And their wide receivers are not particularly good last year. That they could do that, man. And in Kansas, you saw some of the stuff he was drawing up too. Like this guy had ideas and designs and could do it for all the guys who played. I mean, he was able to get the most out of that. That's something that you can't really expect to happen. But if they can keep Jalen Daniels on the field, that's always the big question. He should be able to take care of the football. He should be able to lead this team. And then once again, if that athletic ability is not hindered by any of those injuries, expect a good offense. Obviously, for KU, the big question is, can your defense continue to be the team that's like, okay, we force turnovers and we bow up in the red zone? Because they're between the 20s. KU is not always going to be a team that's getting a lot of stops. So that's always a big question for them. But I'm excited to see the offense because we've been able to watch. It's funny. We've been able to watch Jalen Daniels for a while, but it feels like we haven't been able to watch him for a while. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's kind of almost a Tyler Shuck situation.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully he gets a full year of being the guy.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. We interviewed him at Big 12 Media Days. Everybody, if you meet him, will root for Jalen.
He's a cool
Daniels.
dude. He's a cool dude.
Yeah, you'll root for. Look, you're a Mizzou guy. You even like him.
I love Jalen Daniels. Yeah.
Josh, they are playing Fresno State, which I think it's kind of lucky for Kansas that they're in a bit of a transition with the new coaching staff. But I think that coaching staff with Matt
notoriously frisky.
Yeah, they're
notoriously frisky.
Yeah, here's the thing about Fresno State: they can go 0 to 60 pretty well as far as, okay, we lost a coach, we replaced a coach, we're still a thorn in everybody's side that we play. And Matt Ans has won a bunch. He's won a bunch. So we'll see. It's not like they're not playing a gimme first one. That's for sure.
Nope, not at all.
Yeah. And look, and especially for Kansas, who is new to this being expected to win games. Like that's
right.
It's still very new there at Kansas football, where they're expected to win games at home, because for over a decade, it was just like, all right, well, how fast can everybody leave today? Kind of like, how long do I have to sit at this meeting that doesn't have anything to do with me to show that I care about my job, right? Before I can pretend that, like, oh man, I got that hand meeting at 2:15. Got to go.
Right.
Yeah. All right, Josh, are you out? Is it high school football season in Arkansas? Is that why we're on a video today?
My first game is in 2 weeks. I'm coming back from the Southwest Products. I forgot what it's called. Basically, the Arkansas Timber Producers Association had an event. A lot of excavators, a lot of heavy machinery. 4-year-old Josh would have been in heaven, but I'm coming back from Hot Springs, Arkansas, where I was doing a live show. So
okay,
that is why you've got me via the cell phone today. And then, but I'll tell you what, Paul, it's the part before the season starts is more busy. Getting everything, all your ducks in a row, and advertising and all that kind of stuff. Oh boy, I'm ready. I need some football because I need that rhythm back.
Yeah, I don't even do high school football anymore, and I have 2 stacks of production in front of me that I got to get done. So, yep, it's just how it is. Josh Neighbors, College Countdown Podcast. Josh, talk to you next week, brother.
Bye, Paul. Thanks, man.
All right, that's Josh Neighbors. Top 5 is next. This is 365 Sports.
Overwhelmed by your inbox? Clean Email is here to help. Organize, clean, and manage your emails with powerful automation tools. Say goodbye to spam and clutter and enjoy a stress-free inbox. Try Clean Email today at cleanemail.com. That's CLEAN email.com. Founded in 1910, Samsonite is the world leader in durable, high-quality luggage and travel accessories. Made to the highest standards, our products won't let you down. We give you the confidence to get out there and explore. Inspired by the past, devoted to the present, and built to inspire a multi-generational future, Samsonite is here to elevate your journey. Travel with Samsonite and pack confidence every step of the way. Shop now at shop.samsonite.com. Samsonite.
This is Paul Catalina's Top 5.
Welcome into Paul Catalina's Top 5 as we continue through our preseason Cadillac All-American list. Safeties today. And also brought to you by Flag and Anthem. Flagandanthem.com has got some really neato shirts. If you're keen to look better for your lady friend, go to flagandanthem.com. Use our promo code 365sports. And if you haven't discovered the internet yet, that's okay, pal. It's coming for you. All right, let's talk safeties here. I hope Flag and Anthem enjoys my old school ad reads. That's something I'll just do for them for right now. Corey Parrish at Minnesota. If you haven't heard about this guy, this is this year's version of Travis Hunter, possibly. PJ Fleck was talking about him and how good he was with the defense. Well, he's going to have a large package on the offense this year. He's also going to be on pretty much every special team. Corey Parrish is going to be off the field for maybe 15 plays a game. Honestly, he's going to play as much as he can at safety, and they're going to work him in different ways on the offense, not just at wide receiver, running back. He might take snaps in the Wildcat. Lots of crazy things they're planning to do with this guy because he's a superior athlete. So if you need to watch the Gophers this year, do it because you want to swim in the Koi Pond. Koi Pond, Corey Parrish's future podcast, trademark Paul Catalina. I thought of it first, Koi. I thought of it first. Number 4. Michael Taff at Texas kind of burst on the scene like in a secondary that's full of really talented guys last year. Nobody really thought about Michael Taff as being one of the players that would make his mark the biggest last year. Played next to Andrew Makuba, who is a fantastic player who's now to the Eagles, who transferred in from Clemson. But he very much held his own and very smart back there, great vision, can get after the ball carrier. can really close in on receivers, and has nice hands to make big plays. Number 3, KJ Bolden at Georgia, one of the top recruits in the country just 2 years ago, a 5-star safety, something that doesn't really happen all the time, although it happens some of the time. Another one of them is on this list. But KJ Bolden steps into a bigger role at Georgia because Malachi Starks is gone. He's in the NFL playing with the Ravens, which couldn't be a more perfect spot for Malachi Starks. KJ Bolden steps into a larger role, even though he started last year. He is going to be fantastic in Kirby Smart's defense. Look for multiple picks from him this year. I would say over-under at 5. If he hits the over of 5, I would not be surprised at all. Number 2, Dylan Thieneman from Oregon was at Purdue, transferred there. Purdue not successful at all. Barry Odom comes in and takes over. Now, while I think he would have fit well in Barry Odom's defense, he's going to do great in Dan Lanning's because Dan Lanning, one of the best defensive minds in the country. They needed a safety. They went and got one of the best ones. Dylan Thieneman, going to be really good for the Ducks this year. And number one in safeties, number 1 in defensive backs, and who I believe is the best football player in America in Caleb Downs. This dude can do anything. Anything. He is fantastic. Matt Patricia takes over as defensive coordinator, and if he wants to replace the very big shoes that he has to fill for Jim Knowles, find different ways to move Caleb Downs around, let him be creative in that defense, he is fantastic. The best football player in the country. Again, I'm going to say it. The best football player in the country. And if he's not at least in the top 10 of Heisman voting at season's end, he either got injured or a lot of people need to lose their Heisman votes because he is going to have the numbers. Again, this is the best football player in America. I don't think many people would really disagree with me if we got into a debate on that. The best football player in America, Caleb Downs. I am dying on that hill. That's going to do it for us. I'm still alive on this hill, as is Andrew Valade, who made some polls. There we go.
You mispronounced John Mateer's name. Kept saying Caleb Downs for some reason. No, I'm kidding. Actually, I was reading something on Oklahoma the other day, and I think I'm like not as high as everybody else. Suddenly, I feel like I was more excited than most people at first because I had watched him and knew a bit about him. And now I feel like I've been surpassed, and now I'm like underestimating him based on the expectations. But that right there, that player and that storyline is going to be fascinating as well. But yeah, Caleb Downs is a fuck. He's stud.
Yeah, he is. He's the dude. Like it's almost that's the adjective you have to use.
Yeah, he deserves that one. Yeah,
he is that guy. Caleb F. Downs. That's who he is for sure. He is so good. All right, let's look at some polling data. This is what our people are finding out on the street. What's your take on the SEC's 9-game schedule? 73% of 186. Great move. 13% are neutral. 7% disagree or need more details. I'm surprised at the 7%. I guess they're afraid of the ninth game.
I would think 7% disagree, or probably fans who don't think it's a great idea because it just messes with the tradition that they've had with the 8 games. And so they're not fans of that. And we heard from Pat Smith that there are some people that aren't like just overwhelmingly in favor of the 9 games. So I could see, 7% on that. On the need more details, I mean, I assume those could be people that want to know who the permanent rivals will be or something along those lines. And then I'm with the 73%. I think it's a great move. I do have questions about how the strength of schedule is utilized, as we talked about earlier. But I think in general, because I always believe there's another chess move that Sankey's making. He's always like 2 steps ahead of everybody. So I don't know what this is leading to outside of the obvious new TV money and things. But I'm more great move than anything else by far. I'm looking forward to everybody being on the same page.
Yeah, absolutely. Next up, who will win Farmagedon in Ireland? K-State, Iowa, toss-up, and no clue. So got a lot of K-State dominated this.
Yeah, they're the favorites. Yeah. I mean, they're the favorites, so I'm not surprised to see people picking them and got a star quarterback, and so does the other side. But think, some really fun players around Avery Johnson, and still some fun players around Rocco Becht. I feel like this game's really splitting hairs now. If K-State goes and beats them down, then boy, oh boy, that's going to be something interesting to talk about, or vice versa on Monday. But yeah, I'm sticking with my Iowa State pick. I think it should be a very close game. They're pretty evenly matched, and if not, then that's going to be a story. So I don't blame those though picking the purple, because that is the favorite, and there's a lot of reasons to believe that they should win tomorrow and should win a lot more beyond that. I think both these teams are going to be teams we talk about sometime in at least early November. And we're saying these two are in the mix for the bigger picture end of year, along with a couple of other teams. So whoever wins this will have a little bit of an inside track. And congrats, K-State fans. Congrats, Iowa State fans. You got here. You're here. We're all here. Congrats, everybody. We've arrived. Look, just one more sleep, and then it's on, and then we don't look back until January, basically, which is awesome that we're finally here. I'm just very excited about that.
Yep, absolutely. Andrew, I'm not sure we needed 4 in this one. We should just make people pick one or the other. I know that you're, a slave to the format, but.
Yeah, I mean, we could probably also decide that beforehand before he puts it out, and we'll maybe just sit there and take a look at the folks who are trying to not give us an answer on our poll question by taking the easy road.
Listen, you toss up and no clue people, you 17%, stand for something or stand for nothing.
Yeah, right. No, I mean, good questions though. I mean, pretty obvious going to this weekend what the big topic is. So Farmagedon, looking forward to that in the SEC 9 games. Obviously a very big story in the last 24 hours. So I think to have that news put out there is very what is the word? Very intentional by Greg Sankey. Normally I'm not looking for people to grab headlines from game week, but that's one I actually am okay with. And now we can say, all right, cool, that's taken care of. Y'all can debate about the playoff and everything you want to, but at least when you have the debate now, that important piece is now done, and we can move forward from that. And who's going to play this many games? And now let's get to the next phase of these talks. But let's have that also in the background of what's going to happen now.
Which is taking a flamethrower to AQs.
Probably. Yeah,
probably. That's probably going to do that. So, all right, that's going to do it for us. Don't forget about 365 Sports Tonight. Please like and subscribe. We have a new newsletter as well, 365sports.video to sign up for it. It's a Big 12 newsletter.
Yeah, each Wednesday mid-morning you'll get a little sampler platter of Big 12 news from all 16 teams. So, 365sports.video if you want to take a look at the very early first edition, and we'll update that every Wednesday with various writers and video folks. And if you want to be a part of it, then just reach out and let me know.
All right, 365sports.video. This is 365 Sports. See you Monday.